everyone. Welcome to Frame Trap. I've got two people on here who haven't been on quite a while. Sitting right next to me is Michael Damiani.
Hello.
And right next to him is Mr. Kyle Bossman.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going all right.
Yeah, you got a little 5 o'clock shadow. I like it.
Yeah, unshaven today.
Yeah.
That's the Mondays, right?
I have those days. Some days you just don't want to. Shaving's a pain in the butt. This is a show, if you're unfamiliar with it, where we talk about video games. We actually have a lot of non-video games that we're going to be talking about today, which I know some people want, and that's kind of the whole point of this show. It's sort of a check-in with the allies. This is the media we're consuming right now. Please listen to our opinions. It's that kind of show. But before we get started, we haven't kind of done like a nice podcast warm-up in a while, and so I was thinking about doing that. And it's hard, I think, with the Thanos of gaming that's like looming over us. We're on the horizon. E3 coming. I hate that I did that. No, I came up with that on the spot. I'm not into it. I think that's pretty bad.
It's like the Infinity War.
Try to
gaming.
appeal to the kids.
Yeah.
The Thanos of gaming.
The Thanos of gaming starts right now. What's the Power Stone of E3 going to be?
Yeah, which conference would represent each
this
stone?
This is a game. We should play that game for E3.
This is the new warm-up.
Yeah.
All right.
Which one's the Mind Stone? Yeah.
Which one's the Mind Stone?
Mm-hmm. Bethesda.
Why is Bethesda the Mind Stone?
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of thought and consideration put into their show every year.
Okay. Okay.
You know, they actually concern about like having a theme around their games.
Yeah, like they had Bethesda Land at one time.
Yeah.
Everything fit in there.
Yeah.
I can see that. I think the Power Stone's going to Sony, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
See, to me, Power Stone is brute force.
Yeah.
But they're in like the driver's seat right now.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the Time Stone is Nintendo. Because regardless of what's going on, they're going to do their own thing.
Yeah.
They will not be paying attention to anything or anyone else. What is Microsoft, though?
So what do we have left? We have Soulstone.
I was gonna say they're not the Soul.
And there's one other one left. What is that other last one?
You have Mind, Power, Soul, Space.
Oh, okay.
Oh, maybe. Maybe Microsoft is because you have EA.
We have to contextualize
Ubisoft,
that, though.
And Microsoft. So I'm trying to think.
Would Ubisoft be Soul?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's give them the
when
Soul.
Eve's getting
Because
out
think
there,
about
yeah,
the Mario
those-
and Rabbids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Appeal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And their
okay.
CEO always
Their
comes out at the
passionate
end.
speeches at the end
Yeah,
after
it's
like
jolly.
beyond good
Yeah.
and evil too. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Like when an EA CEO comes out, you're like, oh. But when Eve's comes out, you're like, yes. Let's do this. Yep.
Make me cry.
Yep.
I don't know. Like I'm trying to think between EA and Microsoft for the Space Stone.
We need a take here.
Okay, so I mean, Space Stone. It's really hard to relate to like how do we put the? I guess.
I think about it in terms of like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, where you put your opponent in a box and they can't get out.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we work with that?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure. Go with that.
Okay.
So
They're going to put you in the Xbox.
Yeah.
And you're going to be
you
so
won't be able to get out.
surprised by the raw power that you just stay there stunned.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess let's do Space Stone for Microsoft because they're talking about how it's going to be their biggest E3 ever. They're going to take up the most space. They're renting out a whole theater just for themselves.
Okay.
And so people can walk into the Microsoft theater. Like, maybe they're not renting their own theater, but you can like walk in and like play a bunch of games. They're just trying to make it big. They're saying this is our biggest E3 ever.
Okay.
We're spending money this year.
Okay. So that leaves EA with the Reality Stone.
Forgot about the Reality Stone.
Yes.
They're kind of in their own reality.
Yeah, they are.
They have to make a new reality now after all the loot box stuff. So they really they might not represent it, but they need it the most.
Do
right
they
now.
address that this year? Do they get out in front of that? Well, behind that and say, "Hey, this is what happened. We're turning a new leaf, guys."
They're going to brag about their new systems. They're going to say no loot boxes. This is why realities. This is why they live in their own realities. They think they walk out like they're good guys.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
because everything's gonna be battle royale.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the new reality.
But when you think about it, this is like some sort of pitiful version of the Reality Stone, where they do like the hand wave and they think they're walking out to this adoring crowd, but it only changes it for them.
Yeah.
For everybody else, they just get worse and worse.
Ben, it's really funny you bring up Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, because like throughout watching the movie, when I hear the stones, I think of like characters going like, Reality Stone, Reality Stone. And so like I'm sitting there in the theater going, Reality Stone, like in my mind, just like replaying of Soul Stone. It's like, just fighting games are so dumb. They just say too many words.
But I love it.
Yeah.
Do you remember Deadpool and Marvel vs. Capcom 3? Mm-hmm. That was the epitome of that. Bang, 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 bang. They just over and over and over again. And I loved it. I really did. I never got sick of it. We've talked about God of War a lot on this podcast, but we haven't gotten the opinions of Michael Damiani or Kyle Bossman. And so we're going to talk about God of War, but I'm going to basically just throw it to you guys. I'm going to interject when I feel appropriate, but I kind of want to know, for the first question, let's ground this a little bit. How much do you care about God of War? How much do you care about God of War now, and how much did you care about God of War before this new game?
Sure. I would say I'm in the middle of the kind of like the chart in terms of like caring the most and caring the least about God of War.
You're in the middle.
Yeah, I'm right in the middle.
That's a little bit higher than I was expecting.
Just because I was always aware of God of War. I'm sure I touched it at some point when it was originally released on PlayStation 2, but I didn't actually play through any of them in a significant capacity until the HD collections came out, for the two of them. And I played every single God of War that was out via that.
Was this for fun or from game trailers?
Both were for reviews.
Yeah.
Both were for
this
reviews.
was handed down.
I actually remember our former colleague, Rich Brown, coming up to me and saying, "You're so lucky you get to play these in HD first." He's like, "I'm jealous of you. I wish I could forget and play them in HD." He was a huge God of War fan too. But he was like...
They always look good, though. Those are always really good-looking games.
I thought they were too, but apparently like playing them like nice HD, even looking even better, was like is the best. I think he just wanted like the best experience possible for new players who had never really dove into God of War.
I would argue God of War on PS2 is still pretty good looking for a PS2 game.
It had to do a lot of capture for the original God of War, and I remember thinking, some of those set pieces still look pretty dang good on PS2.
Yeah.
But I understand the sentiment. Narrative-wise, I've never been like very invested in like the story of God of War or anything like that. I just was aware of like, oh, God of War 3. Oh, look, Kratos. Apparently he died and fell off a cliff, and he really opened Pandora's box or whatever, and like, oh, cool. And he gave knowledge to all the Greeks and stuff. Congratulations.
Hope.
Or hope, sorry,
Give him hope.
See, that's exactly how much I really know about like God of War.
How much I hated that. Oh, the power of hope was in Pandora's box. Oh,
it was an Athena like, that was for me, Kratos. Yeah. That's mine. Give it to me.
I wish they would have said it just like that.
They did.
Oh, the power of hope.
You win the game. It's hope.
It's hope.
So playing out the new God of War, there was a little bit of intrigue about, okay, so where's Kratos been? What is he up to? Like, what's the story here? Old man Kratos, is he still like this like beast? This is like berserker style, like just ravaging through everything. And as we saw with all the gameplay clips and teasers leading up to it, it's like, probably not. He's a little different. Well, and he's got this kid, this son. And I'm like, is that really his son? It's like, I was like, deep in my mind, I was like, I think this might be a plot twist. You're gonna find out that's not really his son, like in the first 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah,
like they've been like trolling me this whole time.
It's home.
It didn't come to pass.
I like they promised at E3 actually. I like they straight up promised like, no, it's his son.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I was like, don't worry about it. It's his son.
Kyle.
Yeah.
Care level on God of War before and after.
God of War 1, I played. I don't remember when. God of War 2 played late. Basically, I was home from college and I was like, I finally get to play PS2 games. Which two am I going to play? And it was Kingdom Hearts 2 and God of War 2. Had a really good summer with those two games.
Which one did you like more after finishing?
Oh, Kingdom Hearts 2.
Good pick.
But God of War 2 is still a really cool game. But God of War 3 was one where I just watched my roommate play. Ascension, Ghost of Sparta, the other one. No, never played those. Mm-hmm. Care level, like Damiani says, medium, where I like parts of God of War, but was never attached to the characters, never attached to the narrative, never got way into the combat system, never wanted to play through on hard to unlock the cooler armors, but really just I love walking across a chain of these giant horse statues.
Yeah.
There's just parts of that are just like no other game does this as well as these games do this.
Sure. Do both of you feel more interested in Kratos and in God of War in general after finishing? Or Kyle, you finished this. Damiani,
Yes.
you were still going through it.
Yes.
I know you're a decent ways in. We're not going to get into story spoilers, but the question still applies. Do you care more now than you did before?
So, I mean, I have to be honest. I think the fact that I have a hard time... I'm finding a hard time going back and getting back into God of War each session. Like, basically getting back into each session and playing it.
Is it the controls, combat?
So here's the thing. I don't know why. Like, to answer your question, I actually think I do care about God of War and Kratos more after what I've played. Mm-hmm. It's definitely he's a more interesting character to me now. They definitely give him like a little bit more personality. There are these moments where you can tell like he's not just like kill everything. Oh, I'm Kratos. God of War. It's like all those moments where he's like thinks like, should I like touch my son and like show him I'm affectionate and care him, like, and he like hesitates. And he just like does that through like the opening hours of the game. Like, he's really like thinking and reflecting, and like he's still very abrasive at moments, but there's times where he's like, okay, this is a kid still. Like I should have some sympathy for him, where it's like, and before it's like, no, he would like not give a crap about this. So I like what they've presented about Kratos' personality, and that he's had time to reflect after these games, and he seems to have his character arc he's developed, and that part of it I like. I do like the combat system, the changes they've made to it. I do like the structure of the game and the pacing. Oh wow, the biggest change for me was just the pacing of this game. How it likes to take its time and indulge in moments to kind of like immerse you, and to like it just lends itself so well to like the narrative presentation of the game. Like the cinematic like scenes that they have is just way different than anything in the previous games. But I don't know. Maybe I feel like maybe it's like that might be why, because it's slower paced. I feel like in my mind, like God of War is just like fast paced action game. You can be over in a few hours. This is definitely a much longer game of everything I've heard. So I'm like, man, like I don't know. Maybe an emotional toll. Maybe I was like, it's just so different that my mind is having a little bit of trouble like getting back into it. But each time I go back to it, I still like enjoy it though. So it's kind of a weird disconnect. I can't really explain it. It's kind of like it's not a knock against the game. That's a little unfair. I think the next time I play it, each time I play it for like 2 or 3 hours. I'm like, oh, I enjoyed that. I got to a good stopping point. But I don't have that thing where like, just a little bit more. Oh, just a little bit more. And then I go for like hours on like after that. I don't have something like that going on with it, I guess.
Interesting. My experience when I was playing it is I had a hard time putting it down. Like I just wanted to see, okay, we're going to unlock a new realm. What's that going to look like? And just curiosity at the things that I was going to experience in the game. Kyle, what was it like for you? Are things taking an emotional toll? Was it hard?
Same thing, Ben, where like I'd say last year there were 3 games that had this effect on me. It was Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, and Final Fantasy 15, because I played it last year, where this just like, I need to finish this game so I can move on with my life.
Right.
Just have like an unhealthy addiction to the game itself,
sure,
where like 2 or 3 hours is impossible. There are nice parts of the game where it's just like, hey, spend an hour in here and like you can just do some side stuff and that's okay, which I really, really liked. But no, like once some of the story sections, once those start rolling, it's like, oh, this is really great. I got to see how this resolves itself, and I move forward. When you say how excited are you for the franchise going forward, what's funny is story-wise, extremely.
Yeah.
I guess I would say I'm extremely invested in what happens with God of War moving forward. So where like it's like, hey, which sequels would you be most excited for? Like it just moved up. It's in like top 3 right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a way to position this question that doesn't get you into territory where we're ruining the ending of the game. Mm-hmm. But is it is your where is that excitement for the story coming from? Is it like the time that you spent with these characters and the slow buildup, or is it like big shocking moments that really left an impression on you? What is it? A combination of the two?
So one thing I always like in long narratives is consequences. In like a TV series, I love consequences. In a movie series, I love consequences. And what's so cool about God of War is that it takes all of the 3 games and all those side games into account. It's still that Kratos.
Yes.
He still did all of those things he did. And so it's safe to assume that all the things you do in this game will matter going forward. That all of the actions you took here will have consequences moving forward. And that's what I just love that.
Sure.
I love that all this stuff matters. It feels like it's a world where everything matters. And I think that's important.
I just started thinking about Final Fantasy IX and why it's my favorite Final Fantasy and putting it in touch with God of War, because I think for me in Final Fantasy IX, more so than pretty much any other Final Fantasy game that I've played, I think you can make arguments for other games, but I like that the place the characters start is so different than where they end up, and it's directly because they were all sort of in their own little bubbles, and then by coming together and experiencing each other and other people's take on the world, they sort of take all of that in and become very different people. And I think that happens in God of War a lot, and not just with an impressionable young kid like Atreus, but it also happens with Kratos. Like how Kratos starts and his attitude towards his son and his attitude toward the world is very, very, very different at the beginning of the game than it is at the end. And I think it's really remarkable to see that. And because of that, you want to see how that sort of development is going to play out even further, because they definitely suggest a lot there. But did the kid ever get on your nerves? Were you worried about the kid going into it? Were you worried that you'd have to babysit it? I don't know, because there's, I think, some natural hesitancy anytime you have this companion character along for the ride for the game.
Yeah. Before playing, a little concerned that there might be too much babysitting, essentially, or like escorting type stuff, mechanics. And from what I played, all those concerns just like have been completely abated. They don't exist. Like I've actually liked playing so far, having Atreus along, because I like seeing the interaction. Like the interaction between Kratos and Atreus is really good. Like it is like one of the best things I've seen so far in the game. It's never gotten annoying for me so far. I don't know if that changed, but like I actually really like it. I really like his inquisitive nature, because a lot of times you get to see more of like Kratos' personality come out, but also his changes. Like he'll get frustrated at some of like the things he does, and it's like, okay, that's Kratos, but it's also being dad. It's like dad Kratos, but it's also like normal Kratos, and like trying to like parse which is which is like kind of like nice to see. But also there'll be like when Atreus gets a little too inquisitive, he'll be like, it's just the way it is, or that's it, and like, but like no, like that's I mean, again, another dad moment, but also like it's nice seeing someone like on an intellectual level challenging Kratos in terms of like, basically it pushes Kratos outside of his comfort zone a lot. It's very clear, but at the same, like, while Kratos can sound or visibly be annoyed at some of it, at the same time there's a lot of times where he like you can see him start to understand, and I think it's also what made painfully clear by the opening of the game is that Kratos is now like a single parent, and he's also like, there are the moments where he like basically references his now dead wife, or dead mother, and he's like, wish would be easier if you were here and stuff. It's like, it's a good dynamic to have, I think, and it's nice to see that. And yeah, I really like it so far.
I really enjoy Atreus. Reminds you that sort of like refreshing impulsiveness and honesty that kids have. Like if Kratos is doing something that Atreus thinks is lame, he'll just call him out, and he's always very open about like, Dad, I want to do this. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to see. Are you sure you want to do that? And it's nice, I think, especially contrasted with somebody who doesn't really, has a hard time expressing any emotion whatsoever, is like cynical about everyone, has been through so much. It's nice seeing somebody poke at that who is completely different from this sort of turtle in his shell kind of character. I like that a lot. How do you feel about Atreus?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think it's important to recognize that Kratos is still the main character, right? And that Atreus, as Damiani kind of hints at, exists to pull things out of Kratos. And so, yeah, if you look at the character from that aspect, he's great at what he does. And so, like, when you go into a cavern and he's like, wow, it's not necessarily like, the point isn't that you, the viewer, the player, should also be going, wow. The point is, look at Kratos not saying wow. And so, yeah, Atreus exists to say things about Kratos, which is really nice. But also, like, if we're talking, like, my expectations of Atreus from the gameplay aspect, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to spend anything on Atreus. I'm going to just go all attack.
See, I went the opposite way.
And he's so clutch. Yeah. That's what changed, is I ended up upgrading him completely before anything else.
Right.
Because just some of his abilities are incredibly helpful. And, I mean, yeah, Damiani, I don't want to, like, tell you how to upgrade, but, like, that's honestly more surprising to me than how he was implemented in the story, is how, like, it doesn't feel like a stupid AI companion that you have no control over. It actually feels like this is another aspect of the combat system that I do have control over and can activate things and things like that. And I actually really liked it.
Because in combat, Atreus is your primary, hey, let's crowd control here. Let's inhibit these guys, and then once you inhibit them, I'll go in and I'll clean up and I'll do the rest of the damage. And you need that because they throw so many situations your way where if you're not using Atreus, maybe you won't die, but you're definitely not fighting as efficiently as you could be. And I think that is really interesting for sure. Something that I want to talk to you about, something that I've thought about as we've been doing this discussion, is playing the rest of the God of Wars. I would kind of be a little bit disappointed. I remember feeling this very keenly during God of War 3, where I would get into the game and I would get like halfway or 75% of the way through the game, and then even when I was finishing it, I was like, all of these crazy things are happening. I'm in these very grandiose places. I'm fighting these huge, fearsome opponents, but I'm not really all that excited. I'm not enjoying the moment as much as I feel like the game wants me to be, and I think it's because I always know what Kratos' reaction is going to be. Whatever he encounters in the world or whatever he's fighting, he's always going to feel the same way. He's going to be angry and he's just going to want to deal with it so he can move on towards his goal. And that's fine. That's a fine trait to have. But I think when that's the only thing that you're experiencing, the sameness of that response kind of gets a little lame. And so I think it's nice having this additional element, Atreus. And I'm like, I don't really know how Atreus is going to deal with this. I don't know how Kratos and Atreus are going to deal with it and how their differences are going to play out. And so I think that's why it made going through the world and seeing all of these things more impactful than if it was just Kratos by himself, in my opinion. But I want to talk about the combat, which you've started with, Atreus. Damian, I want to throw this to you. You're somebody who goes to the Church of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. That's a game that you've played through multiple times. You've sung the praises of it. It always seemed like to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, that that's kind of like your high bar for action games. How is God of War faring for you? Not necessarily, I'm not trying to like pit the two against each other, but are you enjoying its take on combat?
Yeah, I like what I've played so far. In the early goings, I thought, so here, this is a good way to illustrate how I think the combat, even on like normal settings, still like demands you actually understand all the mechanics behind it, which is a good sign for an action-driven game, action-driven combat, I should say. I was trying to use the Leviathan axe's ranged filth, basically, for a lot of the remedial like enemy fights in the early going. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I just like stay back, aim at the head, have Atreus, like do some shots or like distract him. Like, oh, like, is this really what it's gonna be? And I just like can go in like to get a few hits, like to finish them off. I was like, I hope this is really what it's gonna be. And then you get hit like twofold. First, you get the stranger boss fight, which like, hey, you really need to like do the combat system more than just like throwing an axe. Like you
Gotta do some dodge rolls.
You gotta do some dodging. You gotta learn to like block and hopefully parry. You gotta learn that you can't just whack away on your combo button. Like you can't just go swing, 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 swing. Like you gotta figure out like how many hits you can get, and then like to get out, you gotta read tells from the enemy. Like it teaches you the red flash and the yellow flash or circle. So it's like one is like you gotta get out of the way. One is you gotta like parry. Like I like that. Like it was a very good opening fight, and it's the multi-phase part of it. It's like. It's meant to be a little bit challenging. It's like you probably
I think they want to kill you.
Yeah, like you need to learn to like overcome this adversity early. I think the game is like teaching you that you can't get over this hurdle. Like either make the game easier or whatever. You might not. This game not be for you. But going forward, the second point was like, okay, that was a boss. My mind like that's just a boss. Can I still cheese remedial stuff? And then like the next set of enemies, like they were like the ice or whatever, and like or something, and the Leviathan axe would just bounce off them. I was like, oh, here we go. Okay, I like this. So there's like elemental affinity stuff, and then like some enemies will require you to do different. I was like, yes. And then like the first, I wasn't sure if it was a boss or not. Like the first like troll like enemy you fight, it was like, oh wow, like my hits don't do like have like no weight behind them, like no staggering, no stunning or anything like that. It's like. You gotta like read the movements of the enemy, dodge, get in some hits, and like it taught me like you gotta use Atreus properly. Like just can't. It was not old God of War basically. It was that was like these moments like this is different. Like this requires a little bit more thought behind it. I don't know. I can't speak to like the skill ceiling or anything like that yet because I haven't played enough. But I really enjoy. I like the close. At first, I was a little annoyed by the closer camera perspective because you do that ring thing around Kratos' waist that alerts you to other enemies around you, and then they turn red with like, oh, you're gonna get attacked from a different direction, or Atreus will say, "Look out!" and like the roll dodge or something like that. But I mean, they have the quick turn and everything. Like, works really well and stuff, but it can also dodge. It felt a little chaotic at first. But once I wrapped my head around it, it felt really good. And yeah, that closer camera, it's so good going in there and like landing combos and stuff when you go in up close and stuff. It feels more intense. It's weird because old God of War is like flashier. Definitely flashier. Definitely like, I would say it looks probably cooler because of that too. But even though you're doing these grand attacks in the old one, it just felt like you were just kind of like wailing away. There wasn't like any other than like the satisfaction, like, yeah, I'm doing something cool. Like the emotional range on like God of War's combat before was just like towards the high end. Like it was just like this like really high octane and nothing really else. And this like has these really good moments of like I'm trying to not say another game's name because I hate comparing it to like this one game series, but like it's more methodical and it requires more thought, and I feel like it has better payoffs because of that. And it's going to be weird to say, but there's moments where it can be slower paced, then ramp up and then go back and forth, and I like that. And like I have no complaints about the combat system so far. I really like it.
Do you feel just as positively, Kyle?
Yeah. One thing that I'd like to talk about that we hadn't yet was I forget the names of each item. The runes that you can throw onto your axe that gives you one light special and one heavy special.
Okay, yeah.
I love those, and I love that they're items you have to find. And I love you can upgrade them, and I love that it's just like, oh, I got a new one, let me play around with this one. Oh, I like my old one better. Just stuff like that. I actually really like that that's the way they implement special moves, is they're found as rewards for exploring.
Right.
I really like that.
Yeah. I think there's a hesitancy to do that in action games or really any games where there's I feel like a significant number of moves that you can just completely miss if you're not trying your hardest to get out there and explore. I think because those things are so valuable, you feel extra compelled to do that. I think that's really important. One criticism that I want to bring up, just because I haven't really heard the other allies talk about it, or if they have, I've missed it. And it really did bum me out, and it was one of those things where after I completed the game, I was like, am I focusing too much on this? And now that I've gotten some time away, I was like, no, I really do think that was kind of disappointing. You fight a lot of trolls, You fight a lot of the troll type enemy in God of War, where they're these big trolls, and they've got like this giant pillar that they're using to attack. And they come in different flavors. They're not all the same. But I think especially on a series that does spectacle so well, and does different types of spectacle, it was really kind of disappointing that I sort of fought different flavors of the same thing in sort of high intensity moments. Did that come out to you guys at all? Do you think that's a weak complaint? What do you think about that?
I would just say that I love the animation of killing them every single time, and I looked forward to it. I was highly anticipating the squashing of the trolls every time that I got to do it.
Okay, so because the killing animation was so good, you were on board. Were the fights interesting throughout?
Yeah, I guess it's funny. It is weird how like they stick to God of War things, where God of War 1 is ripping the eye out of the Cyclops is the one thing I remember the most distinctly, and you do that a bunch of times.
You do.
Yeah. Yeah, Ben, I feel like enemy variety is fine. Actually, like I'm cool with the enemy variety. I'm being so sensitive about this discussion, but yeah, I actually, there was not a time where I said, oh, more of these. Well, there actually was. There's some enemies that are super annoying to me, but never like out of boredom.
Sure.
Never out of just like, I want something new. Give me something new.
Right.
Because I think I got something new whenever I wanted one.
Yeah, I think your point of regular enemy variety, I agree with you. I felt like not only what I was fighting, but the ways in which I was fighting in basic battles. But I think anytime you put a health bar on something, I have a higher expectation. And I have to wonder if that health bar wasn't there or was treated more of like a regular enemy, if maybe I wouldn't feel this way. But yeah, I don't know. I just think a little bit less of that, and I would have appreciated it.
It's funny to me. I think of Breath of the Wild. The first time I ran into, it's on the what's the
What's it look like?
It's the stone monster, and the music changes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I thought, wow, this is its own cool, unique boss that's only in this forest.
Right.
This is so cool. And then it's just there's 8 or 10 more of those exact same things, and like the high knocks. There's a bunch of high knocks, and so like I guess it's just there's this weird classification of repeated mini boss, right?
Right.
Yeah, I can see that, man. I can see where it's just like I would want more variety in my repeated mini bosses.
I also think part of the problem, now that we're actually spending some time talking about it, is very, very, very early on in the game, this is something that you fight. And I feel like it's kind of a moment for Kratos and Atreus, where Atreus kind of has an emotional moment with the troll, and he's expressing some anger. And it's a very, very good moment. And so to see this thing, and then it's like, well, okay, now we're just fighting it, so it's something you can fight, but there's really no emotional consequence afterwards. It just, I don't know. Cheap is too strong of a word, but it wasn't special anymore.
Yeah, I feel like at the point I'm at, I think I've counted 4 or 5 of them at this point.
Sure.
And I definitely get like they're just coming in different flavors. Like, oh, this one has fire, this one has like ice, and oh, there are more enemies around it that you have to like crowd control, deal with while also dealing with the enemy. The troll and a mini boss essentially. Mm-hmm. I guess like if I get like further in the game, if that like keeps happening, and that's I would just I guess I would classify it as like more of like a regular 2/ mini boss. But you point out it does have like that health bar thing, like the multiple bars. It's like, oh yeah, like it is supposed to be meant more of an event, and I could see it probably getting a little bit old by the end, but I guess I don't know how they're gonna like change up the situation. I think it relies more on the situations I'm in when I'm fighting them, as long as it's not just like the 1-to-1 fight against one. Mm-hmm. And I hope it evolves to be more than just like here a handful of like little like lesser enemies is running around it. Like maybe there's like you gotta deal with another mechanic, like you gotta turn cranks or something. Well, one's also like, I don't know, like I'm curious to see how they evolve that, but I can definitely see from what I played so far that could be something that they could have done something more with, to just add a little bit more variety, or just like eventually they do something unexpected that you hadn't seen before. And I guess it gets kind of hard because I said like about 4 or 5 times already, I'm only like a few hours into the game. It's like, how creative can they really get when you're encountering this like mini boss so frequently? But one thing he did, so like ripping out the eye, like finishing stuff in this game, the R3 thing, like I love those things because as well as you're doing in combat, at sometimes there'll be a point where like I actually like nut flung an enemy across like the screen with my final hit. It's like, oh no, I see like the flashing red thing. I get an R3 prompt. It's like, no, I want to get it. And like you miss it. I'm like, no, like I really want to see those because like I really like those, and for whatever reason, they don't. I guess it might be the way I'm playing. I don't see them like they're not too terribly often where it gets like I just don't want to see them anymore. It's like this is overdone. I don't want to see this.
Two things that can make that happen more: are you using your fists and are you using Atreus? Because you got to build up that stun bar.
So it happens more. And definitely, I'm using my fist. The thing that I'm gravitating towards most right now is one of the things I've attached is the light attack. If you hold it down, it is like the multiple like ice chip thing. Like it like hits multiple times into that, and then I go and then like it kind of like gives them enough like hit stun where I can charge up this really strong. I did the thing where you hold down the strong attack long enough, and this is like almost like the one shot kill or virtually like one shot.
It's called the Executioner.
Yeah,
the name of that move.
Yeah, I love that. I was just like, get them into like a corner or something, or get them out in the open and hit them enough where like I know they're not going to attack long enough, and you just like take that risk, especially against the, like the trolls. Like that's the one thing I like to do is watch them miss their attack and go in like I'm gonna do it, and it still doesn't even like stun them with that huge hit. Yeah, it's like did a lot of damage. Like all right, Atreus now, like stun him or like attack him, like shoot your arrow at him so I can get away and stuff. And it's like oh no, he's gonna like shoot this like tracking like ice. It gets intense, but it's like I think it's fun because it's like when you're doing well and you get to see those payoffs. Like I like those moments a lot. But even there's sometimes I was like, I just got through this combat alive, like and didn't like waste too much health. Those also feel really good too, because I know how things can spiral out of control in God of War when you're not doing well. Like you just like not paying. Oh, there's too many enemies above you, and it's like, oh, I won't worry about them. And they're like hitting you. It's like, okay, like stop hitting me. I got these enemies down here I got to deal with. Like I like that. Like I do enjoy that a lot.
Last question I have for both of you before we move on. This is the first 10 that we've given at Easy Allies.
Yep.
Which I think is a big deal. I think that matters. Do you agree with that score based on your experience of the game so far?
I would have given it a 9.8, but I guess because we got to round up, 10's good.
Where's that 0.2 coming from? Let's get into the details.
We can't get into the details.
Okay. Yeah, I was hoping that maybe those details would be.
They're not about gameplay.
Okay.
You know with me it's just going to be about something else.
Okay. So for Kyle Bossman reasons, 9.8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, oh man, there's just so many. I just love just being in that world. I just love rowing.
Yes. A lot of good stuff happens when you're on the boat.
So far, I think I agree with it. Between that and 9.5, like it's in that range.
Sure. Like
definitely is in that range. I think as long as it finishes up pretty strong, I don't see myself disagreeing with it. There's some elements in that game that so here's the problem. Like I listened to a lot of like people's discussion, non-spoiler discussion stuff about the game.
Yeah.
And I was hearing it compared to a lot of different games, and that it kind of frustrated me as I was further I'm getting into the game. I'm like, I don't really like people comparing it to this or to that.
What don't you like people comparing it to?
There are a lot of people who are that I saw in like both Reset Era and then like on my Twitter feed were saying like, oh man, if you like Ocarina of Time or old 3D Zeldas, like this, like it has like it's got a lot of elements of this, and I'm like, having elements, but then like I hate the name dropping. It's like it does borrow stuff from other games, but like it's its own thing. Like this is like people trying to sell me on like, oh, you liked Ocarina of Time, you're definitely gonna love this. Like that, I would not pitch it that way. Like, please don't. I feel it's a little bit.
I would do it.
I feel it's a little bit of disservice to it. Like
disservice to comparing it to Ocarina of Time as a disservice.
I mean, it's not. I mean, you're shortchanging what it's doing. It is like I'm playing through it. This is not Ocarina of Time. I would not go to someone and be like, "Hey, you like Ocarina of Time or something?" Like, you could do better. You could do a better job of explaining why this game is good than like just using that as a crutch. Like, I mean, people are saying, "Oh, it's like Dark Souls." I'm like, stop, please. Like,
why?
Please. What?
Why?
I guess because you lock on and you have to do like dodge rolls.
Yeah, but
and you got to space
saying
out your
why
opponent.
why people are bringing that comparison,
Yeah.
or why am I
I'm just saying,
disagreeing with it?
I mean, one, the Dark Souls comparison is overdone, but I feel
yeah.
like if we're in the point where it's like you can lock on and you roll, then it's like Dark Souls. Like, come on,
you can do that in Ocarina of Time.
You've watered this down to the point where it means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, because actually, like, I loved God of War's dodge roll when it was the right analog stick. I actually thought that was really cool back in the day.
I'm more interested in people who are their critical analysis is talking about how it's reinventing elements of God of War, because I feel like a lot of the old God of War is still packaged into this, is repackaged into this game in a different way. Like the simple thing of like the chest, you still have the same colored chest, but they do different things. Like, you go off a beaten path and you find like the red chest. Like, oh, that used to be like red orbs or something. Now it's like it could be an upgrade item. Oh, it could be like currency.
It could be a special move.
It could be it could be a special move. And then like the shop system between the dwarfs and stuff, like it always feels like I gotta pick something and like I can't have everything. Like I'm making a choice that's gonna have an impact on how combat's gonna play out in this game. And I'm like, that I never felt like that existed before in old God of War. But you still also, for the collectibles, you still get the upgrade for your HP and the meter, the rage meter or whatever. Like, that's still there, but
like the Eyes of Gorgon.
Oh yeah, but it feels like it feels like it complements the whole concept of like, it's no longer just like square rooms and like linear paths, like corridors in old God of War, which is like felt like it was 90% of the rooms. It's like
it's more like
these
a Zelda
organic,
game.
like
like a Zelda
outdoor
game.
environments or even indoor environments.
Like Ocarina of Time.
Kyle, no.
Yes.
Stop.
Yes, though. That's why people are making that comparison, dude.
It's not. Like,
Yes.
So a game has zones now, open zones, and it's automatically Ocarina of Time. Like,
Yeah, it's-
so roll
it's-
dodging and locking on is Dark Souls, and open zones is Ocarina of Time. Okay.
There were parts when I'm playing through God of War where I was like, man, I wish Breath of the Wild had this. And it's very specific, actually. It's when you go off to a corner, and it's not like, oh, there's just a chest here. It's like, oh, this is a whole thing.
Yes.
This is a whole
There's one specific area that
optional
I love.
thing.
Yes.
And just like, I actually like, that's what I wanted out of Breath of the Wild. I was surprised it wasn't there. And just there's always things to figure out. In any new area you go in, there are 3 secret things you could do, or you could ignore them all and go straight forward. I love that about God of War.
Mm-hmm. I guess for me, where the Ocarina of Time comparison falls apart a little bit is Ocarina of Time feels very, very, very segmented, where it's like, hey, this is where you can do stuff and this is where you can't. Like, Hyrule Field is basically just a place that connects the things where you can do stuff.
Yeah,
and
like a big lake.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but even at the big lake, even if we're going to go down that route, I feel like you get more story and world building just traversing that lake than you do in something like a Hyrule Field.
Sure.
You simplify it so much, Kyle.
I was just saying it's a fair comparison.
you
gotta start simple.
Peach's Castle, and then I go into all different rooms and the paintings and stuff. So Ocarina of Time is Mario 64.
They're just trying to give people a frame of reference, Damiani. They're trying to explain this game in a way.
But like at the same time, I think there's a trend now that like that happens so much that it becomes a shorthand now for using a game title or series to say something, and I don't think people go beyond that.
Sure,
So,
I think yeah.
Part of what Damiani's feeling, and I feel it too, right, is you're like, hey, you just want to give people a frame of reference. You want to bring them into the conversation, and that's a good thing to do. But let's just take the Dark Souls thing, for example. What does that even mean anymore? If I say, Infinity Stone E3, a new game from Easy Allies, is like Dark Souls, like, what does that mean to our audience? What are we actually saying? Are we saying that it's hard? Because sometimes you say something that's like Dark Souls just because it's hard.
Yeah.
Does it have interesting online systems? Because sometimes when people say it's like Dark Souls, that's what they mean. And so it just could mean so many different things because it's been twisted and turned and abused so much that like that frame of reference is actually more confusing instead of less confusing. And I think that's a problem that we have on the internet is we're just appropriating all of these things and there's not really like, hey, when we say it's like this thing, this is what it means. This is commonly understood. And so I think that can be very frustrating.
It's just definitions, Kyle. Like people have different interpretations of what that means. Ben did a fabulous job right there explaining that. One that's come up recently. We'll possibly talk about this later on another show. Friend code. The Breath of the Wild.
Promo for friend code. He's plugging.
People said some people said Breath of the Wild is because how well it was received and stuff, and they're going to make features, all those like that. They said it's a death like classic Zelda. So if I said like there would be no more classic Zeldas anymore, what would that mean to you, Kyle?
It would mean 8 temples where I unlock a new weapon in each temple.
Okay.
That to me is what that would mean.
What if I told you to some people, Breath of the Wild is the most accurate reinvention of classic Zelda? Because I define classic Zelda as the original NES Zelda.
Right.
I mean, so is that Dungeons, but like when I brought that up on a discussion on Reset Error thread, I posed that question.
This is on you, dude. This is on you getting in those threads.
Classic Zelda to some people means Zelda 1.
But like that's not fair. That's not a conventional opinion.
But then, yeah,
that's an unconventional opinion.
I don't know about that.
It is. Yes, you have an unconventional opinion about what classic Zelda means.
That's not me. I defined it as like Ocarina of Time / A Link to the Past, where it's like, yes, the dungeons with the item around it and stuff like that. But then people are like, that's like the traditional Zelda formula. See, like that's vernacular and stuff. You can't always rely on this though. That's the thing. You have to like
have to use more words.
Yeah,
for
like
sure.
as Ben said, it's great to get people into the conversation, but you got to push yourself beyond that. And I think some people just like write a sentence. Yeah, it's just like Ocarina of Time and stuff. I love a distance about it. Cool. All right. Nice.
So to me, Ocarina of Time is a universally likable adventure game. There's very little barrier of entry there. It's just like hop on in. You're gonna really like this game.
Some people really hate it now apparently because they're like, oh, Breath of the Wild makes Ocarina of Time look so bad. How would anyone like that? I was like, okay.
But I would compare that to God of War. I would say like you're just gonna hop in. You're going to like this game's just good. This is just a very good game.
Okay. Can I compare it to Darksiders?
You remember when Darksiders was the
like
best Zelda game?
We're fast approaching a point of
Do you
no
remember that
return.
made me so mad, dude? Darksiders is the best Zelda game. Shut up.
Wait a minute though. Wait a minute.
Shut up.
Here we go.
I don't know. We might. This might be a question I immediately regret, but something is a little bit off to me about what you just did.
Yeah.
Because you were way on board with comparing God of War to Ocarina of Time, which is fine. You can do that. But what is it about Darksiders, and I would say the very obvious Zelda comparisons that bothered you so much?
Oh no, it's just that I didn't like Darksiders.
Right,
if Darksiders,
that's what I wanted.
Like
that's what I wanted. To
I
be
was
honest
less
with you,
mad when people said Okami's the best Zelda game. It's like, oh, that's stupid, but I get what you're saying.
Right.
But when people say Darksiders is the best Zelda game, it's get out of my house.
So it's all about what we like and don't like.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Great. All right, we've got a weird list of stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to figure out what we're gonna move on to, but let's move on to Barry.
Yeah.
New HBO series.
Yes.
I've seen the first episode. You're caught up. Mm-hmm. What is Barry? Let's start with the what is.
Sure, because Ben, I never have HBO, but the idea of Bill Hader creating his own series about a hitman who wants to be an actor, I said, I got to pay for this. I'm in.
Okay. What about the premise appealed to you so much?
So it's funny. I actually saw the billboard first for an HBO series called Barry, and you see Bill Hader looking over his shoulder with a gun in his hand, and you see like an actor's mirror, the kind with bulbs all over it. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, is this a show about an actor who's going to become a hitman? That's so lame. The opposite is incredible. A hitman who wants to become an actor. Don't know why.
Don't know why.
It's just a much more... I feel like any movie about actors is really hard to get into. Actors are hard to like for some reason. But I guess we'll get into this. I mean, he directed the pilot, which was incredible. It's a very good pilot. It's one of these comedy series that is funny, but it's also a good show. So it's not entirely about jokes. It's not entirely about resolving itself by the end. It is also concerned with telling a story, and as I talked about with God of War and any long-term series, consequences. Mm-hmm. Every episode has consequences that lead into the next thing, and that kind of adds stakes to every little moment, and you know, it's why Breaking Bad is so good. But yeah, it's like applying Breaking Bad to a ridiculous concept, and so I really love this.
You said something really interesting about, like, if it was an actor trying to become a hitman, that would be a lot more lame. And speaking from my experience with the pilot, I kind of get what you're saying. Because he's a hitman trying to become an actor, he goes into this this acting class, and he has to read for a part, and it's terrible. Mm-hmm. But he gets all of this acclaim, and I think that's part of the beauty of it is... because he's going the other way, It's like this sense of you have this community, and I think why you were saying it would be lame if it was the other way around, where they are really full of themselves. They are really self-serving. They are like too idealistic with everything that they do, and so they're willing to accept this person who's super bad at it to kind of puff that up even more. And it's almost like it's mocking that frame of mind, like taking yourself way too seriously, making yourself more important. I like that sort of bent.
Yes,
I think.
Yeah. It is discompassionate about acting for
Right.
sure, which I really like. But this hitman cares. He
Right.
loves it. He
Right.
loves
That's the
that
other
feeling
side
so
of
much.
it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Bill Hader's a really good actor. I
Mm-hmm.
think he's always been. So it's just fun to watch him do this performance, which can be extremely honest sometimes, and
Right.
other times just very funny. Surprisingly very funny supporting cast. And so, yeah, I really like Barry. Love that show.
Great. How I really like Bill Hader. You really like Bill Hader. What do you think about Bill Hader really works as this character, which is much different than anything I've seen him in?
It's funny because the character is an ex-Marine, which Bill Hader doesn't fit into that normally because he's kind of meek. But what he sells is like the sadness of that. He sells like the person who's been through things, the person who struggles to be happy. You know, he sells that aspect of that character really well. And what it takes a very good actor, I think, to portray a bad actor, to do the things that bad actors do. And so he's like really good at that as well.
Sure.
And I think that's hard to nail. The female lead, I don't know what her name is. She's also extremely good at portraying a bad actor in such funny ways. And so I love that. I just really like that, as well as these enormous stakes of he's keeping up this career as a hitman this entire
Right.
time. He's murdering people.
Yeah, speaking on that career as a hitman,
Yeah.
this is kind of an odd thing to say, but I really do think it helps sell the character. It's hard to imagine Bill Hader hurting anyone. Like, he just kind of has that air about him.
Yes.
And so because it's HBO and because he's an assassin, when things do turn super violent, it just makes it that much more unnerving because it's Bill Hader.
Yes.
Which is another element I really enjoy. You were talking about the selling as a bad actor, and I feel like you're really able to pinpoint that in a way that I can't, because the last time I did any sort of acting, it was like in high school. But I know you've done like a lot of theater after high school, and you've been involved with different things. Are there any scenes from Barry where you're like, oh man, that felt like this one time or this one person in my whatever?
Yeah, and to be honest, like it's a little over exaggerated when they're on the stage, when they're rehearsing. But like just when this group of actors is hanging out after class is just I've been in that circle so many times, and it's just like this is the most important thing, you know. And it's just all about moving forward and being excited about the little things that people have, and just extremely entirely accurate there. Ben, one last thing. When you asked like what makes Bill Hader so good at this, is there was just one scene where he's with a friend. They're at the Santa Monica Pier and they're playing some carnival games. And it's I think this is just the very beginning. I love a good I guess you would call it like a smash to title, just where like it's like a funny cold open, and then like you just see the word Barry after like to punctuate a punchline or what is about to happen in this episode. Anyway, so they're playing this carnival game, and he's with his friend who's got a wife and kid, and the friend's like he's playing a rifle game and like can't hit the target, and he's just frustrated, and so then he just grabs it and he makes this expression that you know that Barry the character makes every time he has to shoot. And you only get to see it for like, you know, less than half a second. But of course he just hits the target on the first shot. And he's like, there, you got your giant rat. It's I can't believe how much like you have to think as Bill Hader about like what would this person look like as he pulls the trigger on a rifle. And it's really cool to see it in that moment at this carnival. Just I really, really admire the actor, the writer, the director. Bill Hader. So yeah, he's a cool guy. Good show.
How caught up are you on SNL? I don't say that as a joke.
Ben, I watch like 1 or 2 SNLs a year.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's,
whether
it's
it's
funny.
good or-
I used to watch it religiously every week.
That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Is I watch it religiously every week. Good or bad, it's such a fascinating experience.
Yeah.
And recently Bill Hader hosted.
Yeah, I should watch this. I should watch this episode.
And I just want to say there's a St. Patrick's Day sketch that he does that I have watched repeatedly because I think it is so funny.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a type of character that they've done before for holiday things, but Bill Hader doing it, especially in this episode, it's weird.
I'm
It's
in.
weird.
I'm in.
It's
You know what?
very
I
weird.
should watch the Bill Hader episode.
Yeah, the Bill Hader episode's good.
That can be my 1 or 2 a year. That can fill that slot.
The John Mulaney episode, also recent, also pretty good.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You don't like him?
No, just Ben. I used to just love SNL. I used to look forward to Weekend Update.
Yeah.
You know, I used to love the 10-to-1 sketches, like the last sketch of the show. I used to just like love how weird they would get. Oh man, I used to just love the show entirely, and I think a lot of that magic got lost. And personally, you know what I mean?
I feel very passionate about this.
Yeah.
Here's my perspective on it. I see a lot of sentiment that like SNL is never funny anymore. It's in the garbage. It's bad. Sometimes those takes are spot on. There are episodes I watch that I'm like, this is beyond terrible. This was painful. I can't believe I actually sat through the whole thing. Sometimes they're bad. Sometimes they're amazing. I think that's why, not amazing. Amazing is probably overselling it. Sometimes they're pretty good. And I think that's why I'm enjoying current SNL so much, is to see the highs and the lows. Like if you go in expecting classic SNL every time, you're just bounding yourself for disappointment. But there are a lot of times where I think an episode is going to be garbage and it ends up making me laugh and have a great time. And I think that's like, scripted shows can make me laugh, but it's like a very calculated thing. A lot of times when I'm laughing, like the Bill Hader episode, there are times where he breaks character and it's so funny because it feels so real.
Yeah.
Like they're having a good time enjoying it, and that's why I enjoyed that episode so much. It's like an extra layer to the comedy that you can't get with other things.
Yeah, like Stefan is a top 5 character. Top 5 SNL character.
Yes.
Ben, I think, like, honestly, I had too many peeks behind that particular curtain
Oh.
to enjoy Saturday
that can
Night
ruin
Live.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
Give the Bill Hader episode a shot.
I will. Yeah. There's still things to enjoy about it, Saturday Night Live. Yeah.
All right. Moving on from Bill Hader, there's something that, this was a really great moment. So before the show, we always sit down and we say, hey, what do we want to talk about? Should we do this? Should we not do that? And one of the things that Damiani suggested was Dragon Ball GT, and then we had this great moment where Kyle went, hey, I've been watching that too.
Yeah.
So our two panel, I have not seen any Dragon Ball GT, but these two have.
Kyle,
Yeah.
what? I think it's obvious why I started to watch GT. Why did you start watching Dragon Ball GT?
It's a box peak show. It's a show that I don't have to pay attention to.
Okay.
It's a show like I'm crafting, I'm drawing, I'm erasing. Like I don't need to watch this.
It took me a second to figure out what that meant, because I thought you were saying, like, this is box peak inspiration.
No.
okay.
Yeah. Well, kind of. Yeah. It's also
Sure.
that same kind of
Okay.
thing. But like
Background.
Barry, I'm watching.
Yeah.
Right. Dragon Ball GT, no, dude.
So I gotta be honest, Kyle.
Okay.
So I'm watching it still in Japanese. with
And you're
English
reading
subs-
every single
So I
subtitle.
have
You're
to
not
read
doing
it,
anything
but
else.
There are moments where I'll go do something else and let it run for like a little bit
Yeah.
and come back to it and feel like nothing of value was lost. So,
Yeah, man. Yeah,
so it is a little bit of a background show every now and then.
absolutely.
Like last night, I was like on an episode. I was like, "All right, they're flying through space. I can go brush my teeth and everything before I'm going to bed. Come back. All right, they arrived at the planet. I didn't really miss anything important.
Yes.
Okay. I all I knew going into GT was that it is like at the end. It's not canon, but if you were to consider it, it takes place at the very end of everything. It's like the last series, but it also apparently is the most reviled series. Like people, there's no, I don't like to say there's a consensus, but a lot of the stuff I was reading while prepping to go into it said it's not very well liked. and I'm 15 episodes into this 64 so it's only 64 episodes, which should tell you about its popularity right there.
Yeah.
Is that the other ones went way over that. This one only made it to 64. And 15 episodes in, I can definitely see why people think that about the show. Why there's a lot of negative sentiment around it, and there aren't that many redeeming qualities about GT. Like I was so while there's bad stuff, like things take too long in Dragon Ball Z OG one, I was still like all in for most of it. I was like, I gotta keep watching. I gotta see the next episode. Just one more. Like, wasn't happening with God of War yet, but like it's happening with Dragon Ball Z. It's like, I gotta see that next. I just gotta know how this like like, come on, go on, tell me what happens. This, it's just like, I'll like start dozing off before the end of one episode. I'm like, yeah, it's not working.
Yes.
So, I mean, is that what you feel so far?
Yeah, so it's really, Ben, Dragon Ball GT starts with a Shrek 4 like reset in that basically the series got to this point where to do a sequel, which they've later figured out was Super, they're like, well, we could either go bigger or we could go back to when things were simple.
Yes.
And that's what they did. They said, we're going to make Goku a child again. So, Pilaf is his name, right?
So, yeah.
Accidentally wishes Goku to become a child just because of some weird thing. I like had to rewind. It's like, what did he say? And it's just like the other dragon mistook what he said and made Goku into a child.
I need to give you this frame of reference for the sake of the discussion here, because when Dragon Ball Z blew up, when it became this huge phenomenon in North America, specifically Dragon Ball Z, I was way into it, and I would consume as much as I could about Dragon Ball Z, and we didn't really have access to Dragon Ball GT on levels that I was familiar with at my young age.
Yeah.
But people would talk about Dragon Ball GT, and I was like, this always looks so cool. I thought Super Saiyan 4 looked sweet.
Yeah.
I thought the idea of turning Goku into a kid, I'm like, they could do some really cool stuff with this, maybe. Sounds like no. It sounds like it just sucks.
To me, it's really, the point is you can't go back in a series.
Yes, that's like exactly, Kyle.
Yeah.
Like you can't.
Why?
Because it's trying to evoke the style of OG Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
But in the chronology of things, we already had a fulfilling, really excellent Dragon Ball OG series and had a nice resolution. And then Dragon Ball Super elevated it to something else, whether you like it better or for worse, it is its own thing. This one is just literally trying to go back and recreate the feeling of the original one, but like making Goku a kid again. It's like you like character development wise, like you kind of can't do that. Like everything about Goku is wrong so far through 15 episodes. It's like, did they just neglect like he's just like a one-dimensional character again, like worse than before. It's like the worst ever. Like with Goku, it's almost like he's not even the main character. He's just like there to help like do random stuff every now and then. It's like Trunks. It's like teenager Trunks or CEO Trunks, so whatever age that is. So like probably like 20s or something. And then Goku's grandchild Pan is in there. And then this robot that in Japanese is like Gil or Giru or something.
One's like
yeah, it makes annoying noises, and that is your roster so far through like 15 episodes. Is this cast and like
so Damiani, you haven't seen any of Dragon Ball Super yet.
No, nothing about Super yet.
So this is something I want to throw at Kyle, who's seen all of Dragon Ball Super, and I've seen most of Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball Super revisits the past for sure.
Yes. But it doesn't say, hey, we're going to spend the next 30 episodes looking for 7 Dragon Balls. It never does that. It's never like, hey, let's just go on another adventure where we just look for Dragon Balls. Like, you can't go back to that.
What about the resurrection of Frieza?
Is that 7 Dragon Balls?
No.
Oh, you mean when I said you can't go back?
I'm saying the Frieza part of Dragon Ball Super goes on for a while.
Yes.
Is that better or worse than what you're experiencing in Dragon Ball GT?
Right. So I just mean like you have to raise the stakes. You can't do the same thing again. So if Frieza was resurrected and like killed Krillin, Goku's not going to scream and turn Super Saiyan again, you know? Like it wouldn't have that same impact. You have to escalate.
If they played it for a joke though, I would be way into it.
yeah. Krillin's dad is like, "Oh no!" yeah, like you can't do that. You got to find ways to escalate.
I see what you're saying. So it's not just it's not just using elements from the past. It
Right.
is literally we're just doing this exact same thing. We're trying to copy it.
Yeah.
essentially.
And
I see what you're saying.
it also
Okay.
it fails on, and it also fails on other fronts too. Like the villains and the stakes aren't that interesting after coming after Dragon Ball Z. Like a lot of this stuff is just like, cool. He made Goku a kid, but he still can go like Super. At this point, Super Saiyan 3, which I've heard he goes Super Saiyan 4 later in the series. Like no one in this show, like they made up, looks it should be even remotely threatening to Goku. Yet they're like, oh no, these enemies have like a high key. He's like, oh no, it's gonna be challenging. Like it just seems like there's like the stakes are forced. It feels like the villains are really bad. Like they move from planet to planet, and each like arc kind of takes like 1 to like 2 or 3 episodes at most. And these villains are really bad compared to the villains in the past series. To the, like they are one dimensional, like they're literally cartoon villains, like the worst of the worst, like with like just evil to be evil, and it's boring. And it gets like annoying with those stakes. It's just like, why should I care about this? Like there's no threat, there's no sense of like any, like they're like, oh, you have 1 year to get the Dragon Balls, otherwise Earth gets destroyed. I'm like, really? Like this is what you come up with after like we just dealt with like Majin Buu and stuff? I was like, this is your answer to this? Like I think they needed to maybe move away from like world-ending stakes of that, but I get why they wanted to go world hopping, because we've seen enough of like Earth. It's like, hey, the extraterrestrial, the mystical stuff. Like, let's see more of that. And what they come up with is just like very cookie cutter, very boring, very uninspired compared to the previous stuff you've seen in Dragon Ball at that point. And I'm just finding it like uninteresting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've got another sort of Dragon Ball Super comparison question. One of the better things I think of Dragon Ball Super is how interesting it makes a lot of the characters, not just Goku, right? Like Vegeta is fantastic in Super. Gohan is really interesting in Super. There are a lot of characters, a lot of much smaller characters than that are utilized in interesting ways in Super. How does Dragon Ball GT use that ensemble? You say Goku is just kind of there and in the background, but
Trunks sucks.
Trunks sucks?
Oh yeah, like
Trunks should be OP. Trunks should be crushing all these guys.
Literally, Trunks
yeah.
is just the person there who's like,
do that.
He's
Yeah, he's my
basically
favorite.
He's basically to tell you where we're going next, like location wise and stuff.
Yeah.
He barely fights. He's usually like he's like a pilot / mechanic character.
Which I think is okay.
Which is fine, but like that's all he really does, and like there's like no depth to him either. Mm-hmm. He's just been reduced to this really laughable version of Trunks. I was like, man, after what we've seen so far, this is what you do to Trunks? It kind of sucks.
Do you know what's missing? Do you know what the missing factor is between Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, and Dragon Ball Super? Do you know what Dragon Ball GT doesn't have?
What does it not have?
Toriyama, baby.
Yeah. Oh, no involvement.
Limited involvement. He designed the characters who were in the first episode. He's like, here's what they would look like now. But yeah, it didn't have involvement with the story really. I think he may have named it and decided like, hey, go to space. All right, bye. I think like that was his involvement with GT. But yeah, it did not affect the story.
On some level, like being at that point in your creative life sounds really interesting.
Just make some drawings, put them in space. I'm gonna go work on Dragon Quest now. Yeah.
Right, where they like call you and they're like, Mr. Toriyama, what are your ideas? Put them in space. Bye. Yeah. Oh, that just, I want to see that happen.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I also feel like it was partially done to just like separate itself from all the established like threads. Like it has no attachment to anything in the so far that I've seen to the previous Dragon Ball stuff. It's like its own thing. They basically have like a blank canvas of what they can do. So I wonder if it was more like they were concerned about having to deal with like this complex narrative they've already like woven with two previous series, and like we really don't want to be beholden to all that stuff. Can we just like do that?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. They just don't do anything good with that premise.
I'm gonna throw out an obligatory but important question: is it fun to watch energy beams and punches and the earth shattering when they do crazy moves? Like, is the spectacle of Dragon Ball still intact in a meaningful and fun way?
There is no spectacle. The most I've seen them do is like weak ass Kamehameha, like laser beam style. Like it's like really small, like Trunks do it. Here's the other thing: they barely go Super Saiyan. Like they will fly around sometimes. Sometimes they don't. They'll be like, oh, we need to go somewhere, and they don't even fly. I'm like, but then they will fly. Like there's a lot of inconsistencies. Like at least in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, there was like the buildup. I gotta power up. I gotta still learn this move. They encounter a hurdle. We gotta get over this. This is like arbitrary rules they have to come up with each time. Oh crap, we forgot Goku and Trunks can technically do this. So what if we cast this magic spell at this point and they can't do this for this episode? Ha ha ha. It's like, really? That's what you came up with? Okay. And like I feel like Pawn is the only, like the character who's supposed to be the one who could be challenged by this stuff, and is they're the character who needs to like get stronger and stuff. But like it feels like at any time they're kind of on equal terms, but like it does feel like if there's a point where the shit hits the fan, it's okay, Goku will step up. Like there are moments like there's Deus Machina style when it shouldn't be because he has the powers, or it's like, okay, what else are we gonna do? Anything? Okay, Goku finally decided to power up and save the day. I was like, oh. So that's always in the back pocket. Like,
animation's good though. I would say the animation it is better than Super in many instances.
Although it's interesting to see their version of space is always blue.
Yeah,
like it's not like
nice. It's colorful.
Yeah, it's like the night sky.
This was a few months ago, sometime in 2018. Somebody either linked it to me or I, for some reason, pulled up a YouTube clip of Dragon Ball GT in the dub, and the voices.
Oh, you know we're watching subs.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, the reason I bring it up is because I think the dub in both Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super is good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good dub. I was shocked at how grating and awful and like I don't want to do this. The voices were for the dub in Dragon Ball GT.
Same for the sub. Basically, I'm get really annoyed by Pon's voice, and I look up, it's like Pon's just screaming about something again.
I think, unless I'm wrong, Pon sounds exactly like Videl. Like I think it might be
the same voice actor.
I think it might be the same.
That's funny.
They sound very similar.
I liked that though, Kyle. That was a good cool kid moment. Just kind of I had my microphone. You know we're watching sub.
Yeah, you know we're watching sub, baby.
Sub.
Nice.
Yeah, I have gotten used to the Dragon Ball sub. I didn't think I would, but I got used to it.
I don't know how far you got, Kyle. I mean, there's numerous problems with GT. I want to give one specific shout to something very problematic in GT.
Ooh.
I don't know if
shout out to problematic.
I don't know if it comes across this way in the English dub, though.
Shout out to positive things.
Like there's a call for a warning here.
Yeah, okay, here we go.
There's an arc involving this villain called HOTTAKE, who uses this this robotic mutant thing called Lood, like giant robot thing.
It's named Lood.
Lood.
Oh, okay.
Lood.
Okay.
But I mean, it basically he can convert people, change people into dolls, and then puts them into a pot, and they give energy to this robot mutant.
That sounds okay.
That's
cool.
fine.
Yeah.
But the master of this, named HOTTAKE, does it to Pon. Pon's an underage preteen, and he becomes obsessed with like making her his bride, and makes her a doll and carries her around with him all times, petting her. He wants to like dress her in like clothes he finds attractive, to a point where there's a warning head, like warning, if you like skip ahead 10 seconds, you don't want to hear anything like inappropriate. Like basically he's lifting up a child's shirt and they cut before they do it. I'm like,
but he totally does.
He does it. I'm like, you've got to be effing. It got that point got so uncomfortable. I just read where that arc ended and skipped ahead to that episode.
How many episodes?
That villain dies. The villain does die.
All
he gets killed like 2 episodes later. I couldn't watch anymore. I was like, how did this get through? The dude's basically like a pedophile and is like assaulting a child. I was like, no. Like I was like, think I might quit this series right then and there. But
you should have just give up on GT.
Well, I read ahead and it said like nothing else like that happens, and there are usually GT sites sometimes give you a warning to skip those few episodes because they're completely unimportant. You'll get like the resolution information
Sounds
you
like
need.
all of GT is unimportant.
Yeah, it's not canon. You technically can skip it. But like that was like even with all the crap Goku does in the original version, it was a sign of the times. Like check stuff he does with Bulma and stuff. Like, hey, you're a girl. I've never seen a girl before. It's like, okay, that's probably not. If you remake Dragon Ball again, you should probably change how that's happening. But like this was like the worst thing I had seen in Dragon Ball.
I bought the Dragon Ball GT DVDs not that long ago just because I was like, let's do this. Let's after we finish Super, let's keep going. Let's see everything. And now I don't want to. It doesn't seem like you're having any fun whatsoever. If it was like, oh, this is really bad, but we're having a good time, it doesn't seem that like that at all.
The only thing
it just seems like it's really bad, and there's this creepy villain who's doing bad stuff with kids. No thanks, man.
It's like F that, honestly. I think I made the right answer is just to skip ahead to the part where like they introduce Super Saiyan 4
and like Goku's an adult
Omega
again.
Shenron and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
Like
okay.
I think maybe the latter half is where, even though it's bad, it has some of the things that would be actually interesting. I feel like this first part about the Dragon Ball arc is like just really bad.
Yeah.
Maybe just skip ahead to like the next arc, because I think there's only 2 arcs in GT.
And I guess when they did air it on Cartoon Network, they just like skipped like the first 15 episodes. They skipped a bunch of them and then later aired them as the lost episodes.
Okay.
Because I think they like recognized that like the first few episodes just suck.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
Yeah.
And yeah.
We do have to move on though. I have important
Oh,
news.
yeah.
Kyle Bossman, you said the forbidden thing. Do you have any idea?
No.
You have no idea.
No, I thought I was doing pretty well.
This one I think is pretty obvious, and once you hear it, you might second guess yourself. For those of you who don't know, at some point during the podcast, they will say a forbidden word, wink, wink, and we will trigger a fun little game that serves 2 purposes. First, we get to talk about the people who support the show, which is really awesome, and we have an important announcement that we're going to get into, but we also get to play a fun little game. And this is tailored around the panel, this time specifically, because last time, Kyle Bossman, you were on the show, I told you that I did a version of this game that was real or fake, where the panelists had to decide whether the Sonic characters were real, actual, true Sonic characters or fake Sonic characters, and you seemed really into that idea. So this is what I did this time. Real or fake robot masters from Mega Man.
Oh, great. This will be fun.
Yeah. So we're gonna
is
do
X
that.
included?
I was originally going to do Robot Masters and Mavericks.
Yeah.
But I thought I would save Mavericks for its own thing.
Great. This will be easier, because I think Mavericks get way wilder.
They do get way wilder.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right.
That is, yes. That's true. But the important announcement is that Frame Trap kind of fell on a weird day. So this is happening on April. You'll be watching this episode on April 30th. For May, there are going to be 2 episodes in May. The first episode is on the 14th. If you are a $5 patron on patreon.com/easyallies, in May, you will get Frame Trap early. You'll get it on Saturday instead of Monday. You'll get it 2 days early for the month, and that'll be true going forward. So this will be the last episode where it will only come out on Monday. So if that's something that sounds appealing to you, if you want to listen to Frame Trap on the weekend while you're watching Dragon Ball GT or whatever it is you're doing, you can do that. Also, if you go to patreon.com/easyallies, you can check out sponsorships. If you want to support this show, if there's something you want to plug on the show, this is the space where we do that. And we've got some great sponsors this month. The first is Greg the Dark Knight Kettering. Thank you, Greg. Our second sponsor is Zen Market. ZenMarket.jp is the place to get games, anime, merch, and more directly from Japanese online stores. You can even bid on Japanese auctions in real time. With the flattest fees in the biz, Zen Market is the downright nicest way to start importing Japanese goods yourself. And now, Zen Market also offers a subscription service called Zen Pop. If you need more Japan in your life, try a big mix of authentic Japanese snacks, noodles, or stationery delivered each month with free shipping. Visit ZenPop.jp and use code EASYA during checkout to save $5 on any subscription plan. Find Zen Market and Zen Pop on social media or visit their homepages for all the info. Last but certainly not least is Thomas J. Thomas J. writes and produces weird, heartfelt electropop and alternative rock. Taking influence from everything under the sun, listen to his music at thomasj.bandcamp.com and follow him on Twitter at HippoPoThomasJ for updates and bad takes. P.S. This is a new P.S. P.S. It's ridiculous that Bayonetta 2 did not sweep GOTYs in 2014. That's the P.S. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'd be surprised if you haven't watched this yet, but you should watch it. There's a video put out by one of like the best Bayonetta players in the world.
Okay.
That breaks down why Bayonetta, they think at a high level, Bayonetta 1 is superior to Bayonetta 2.
Interesting.
Based on like the scoring system flaws and stuff, that like it rewards creativity. The first game rewards creativity and has a better skill ceiling than the second game.
I've not seen this.
I would just like go on YouTube and Google like why Bayonetta 2 is like better or worse than 1. And if you can't find it on there, I can either link it to you after. But like I saw it on Reset Era at first, like a few weeks ago.
Cool.
And it was really interesting to see like a deep analysis of like the high-end mechanics in that game. And they made a pretty convincing argument on that level.
Cool.
About that.
Yeah, I'm not that good of a player, so I haven't appreciated on that level.
So I was like, whoa, like I was like, I think the answer was just like most people who play this game aren't aware that this is happening, and because Bayonetta 2 is more accessible, basically they argue the accessibility came at too high of a price for people who care about like the higher end of Bayonetta.
This is completely unrelated reasons, I'm sure, but for a long time I was undecided on whether I liked Bayonetta 1 or 2 more, and I felt like I would kind of fluctuate between the two. I think I definitely like Bayonetta 1 more. I think, not by leaps and bounds, I think Bayonetta 2 is a fantastic game, but I think I like Bayonetta 1 more. Be a fun thing to talk about at some point. The Forbidden Word, which I did not say what it was, not a word, a title, Shrek 4.
Oh, yeah, I had that coming. You're right. I had that coming.
You had that coming, yeah. You know it's fair. I know it's fair. We all know it's fair. Are we ready to play the game?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. Is it the same thing where we have to whisper HOTTAKE?
Yeah, it's going to work a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say we've never done this extra twist to it before as well.
Okay.
I'm going to make it an extra full layer. What you're going to do is you're going to whisper HOTTAKE after I say the name. Please wait for me to say the full name of the thing, even if you think what it is ahead of time. You're both going to be competing, so whoever whispers HOTTAKE first will get it. That will be decided by me. It's not going to be perfect, Colin. We'll do our best. There's going to be a bonus. If you get it right, if you say real or fake and the answer is correct, you can get an extra point by saying if it is real, what game it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You will get an extra point.
Okay.
Now, the same is going to be true. No, we'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
We'll just leave it at that. Because what I want to say is if you get it wrong, we're just going to move on to the next one.
I won't, like, if Damiani if he says real and it's right, he guesses the wrong game, I don't get to guess a game.
Right.
Got it.
Yes, that's how we're going to do it.
I
Not
like
a perfect system, but we're going to do that.
No, it's a good system.
Okay. The first one is Oil Man.
HOTTAKE. That's fake.
That is real.
Yeah.
What is it from?
Was it 6?
Mega Man Powered Up.
Oh, that okay.
Go!
I like that. I like this reaction. It was worth it.
What's wrong? What's wrong?
That was
That's
worth
non-canon.
it.
That's GT. That's Dragon Ball GT right here. Okay. Okay. All right. We're going beyond the 8. We're going about, or the 10, I guess. We're going beyond the 10.
Any classic style Mega Man is included.
Okay, so
I can accept.
All
you
right.
know what?
We're gonna get
I
weird
can
here, Kyle.
accept some criticism that maybe that was not as clear as it could have been beforehand.
Yeah.
That's fair.
No,
That's fair.
I'm widening the
now
scope.
You know.
I'm ready.
All
now
right.
you know. Widen that scope.
We're going weird here.
We got 6 more.
Okay.
Dream Man.
HOTTAKE.
Kyle.
That's fake.
That is fake. Kyle gets a point.
Good, though. Dream Man is very funny. I don't want him to have any like mystical dream powers. I just want him to have like a muscular chin and he like flexes his body.
Yeah. That's a good idea for a Robot Master.
Dream
Kyle
Man.
trying to get that bonus point from describing what the robot should be.
Yep.
All right, next one. Magic Man.
HOTTAKE.
Kyle.
That's fake.
That's real.
No.
That's from one of the arcade ones, right?
Mega Man and Bass.
Oh, I'm getting them all wrong. Kyle's not liking this at all. Kyle's like, okay, that's it.
Mega Man and Bass.
He's like,
Okay.
nope.
All right. Okay. Okay. This is good. Expand the scope.
Shade Man.
HOTTAKE fake.
HOTTAKE real. Mega Man 7.
Shade Man.
Shade
I haven't
Man.
played 7.
Is he a ninja? What is he?
He's like a Dracula
Oh, cool.
kind of character.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
I like
Nice.
that.
Okay, next one. Only 1 point on the board on number 5 here. Moon Man.
HOTTAKE.
Yeah.
Real? One of the Game Boy Mega Mans.
Fake.
Oh.
Nice try, Kyle.
There's a level on the moon.
I know. I would have like.
Ugh.
I was thinking like all these were gonna be real. We're being trolled.
Okay.
Number 6. Minotaur Man.
HOTTAKE.
Yes.
Real. Mega Man 6.
I felt a little bit dirty about this one.
It's Centaur Man. Oh!
Yes.
Yes! Too late.
Yes.
Okay. All right. It's fair. That's fair. That's.
It is. It was a little dirty.
I got rope-a-dope.
And in my research, I found that there was a Minotaur-esque character in Mega Man 04, but yeah,
The old rope-a-dope.
that
I like it.
was a rope-a-dope.
Like
Okay.
All right, so Kyle's in the lead with 1.
Stop me. There's a chance to tie it.
Yeah. Last one, Search Man.
fine. HOTTAKE fake.
Incorrect.
What?
Mega Man 8.
There's a Search Man.
Remember,
Played that either.
he's got like the rocket on his arm, and he's got the 2 heads, and he hides in the bushes. That's Search Man.
Search Man. Wow, what a name.
Yeah.
That was a hard game, man. That was a good game.
I thought that
That
was
was a
going to
really
be
good game.
easier than it was.
Yeah. There was only
Maybe
one fake among
miscalculated.
them, right?
No. There was 3 fakes. So
3 fakes.
let's go through the list real quick.
Yeah.
Oil Man, real. Mega Man powered up.
Yep.
Dream Man, fake.
Yep.
Magic Man, real. Mega Man and base.
Yep.
Shade Man, real.
Real.
Mega Man 7. Moon Man, fake.
Right.
Minotaur Man, fake. That one was
Oh, yeah,
dirty.
yep,
that
that's-
one was dirty.
Yep.
Search Man, Mega Man 8, real. Okay.
That was a fun game.
Yeah, Kyle though.
Winner.
You were the winner.
Yep.
1 point winner for Kyle Bossman. The real and fake, brutal ruling there. Thank you for playing along. Also, I want to encourage people to play along. You think you know your stuff? How many of those did you get? And don't look up on the internet. People will know. Don't do that. Don't do that. Kyle.
Yes.
You got to break us out of this dimension, this dream, whatever you want it to be. You've got to do a word, a phrase, an action to get us out.
In honor of Michael Damiani watching through the entirety of Dragon Ball Z, I want him to do a Kamehameha wave, and I will be Goku over his shoulder, enhancing it.
Sometimes it's so
So I
good,
gotta
Kyle.
I gotta be like the bottom hand.
Yeah.
You're gonna be the top hand.
And
Yeah.
you're injured.
Yeah,
Now
I'm
you gotta
injured.
okay.
Yeah.
So my other hand will be injured.
Yeah.
You'd be like, you could do it, Gohan.
You can do this, Damiani! You can break us out of the frame trap!
Can I just say something? I feel like we should just end the show there. That's it. Thanks for joining. No more segments. It's not gonna get better than that. We've got a lot of things that we could talk about. I kind of want to talk about Nintendo Labo.
Yeah.
Weird thing in general. And I honestly, truly, I thought that this was something that I might skip over. But I found myself in a situation. It was not this last Sunday, but the Sunday before that, where my girlfriend and I were looking for something to do, and we didn't really want to watch TV or play games because we do that so much. So I was like, well, maybe building some Labo will be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we did. We went to the GameStop, we bought the variety pack, and it was so fun. I don't know what it says about our lives that it was so fun.
I was worried about the story. This is good.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, we had a great time.
Yeah.
For a ton of different reasons, and I've got a lot to talk about it, but I want to rope you guys into the conversation. I don't know how you feel about Labo. How do you feel? Have you done any of it so far?
I know how Damiani feels about Labo. Is why I think this
All
is
right,
it.
how does Damiani feel?
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were gonna describe. I'm completely disinterested in it. Like,
Yeah.
just no. I can't care. I'm not the target audience for it. I've always been like, hey, if it does well, that's great. But I really can't think of any way for them to get me into this. But I mean, yeah, disinterested.
You feel the same, Kyle?
No, it's the thing that I'm really excited exists. I think it's like a genius tier idea, but will not invest in myself.
So, the way that Labo starts out is they'll have you do like, hey, get used to this idea, and they'll have you build a Joy-Con holder. Mm-hmm. And it's very simple. It doesn't take that long. And like, oh, okay, this was a cute, fun thing that we did in a couple minutes. And then you can do an RC car, which is kind of like a tier 1 build. They're like, hey, this will take 10 minutes. And the others, they're like, this might take you some time. This might take you more than an hour to do. And we did the Joy-Con holder, we did the RC car, and we did the fishing rod.
Nice.
And the fishing rod was definitely the best.
Is that a game too?
Yes, it's
Cool.
a game. Yes. And I'm trying to figure out a way to liken my Nintendo experience in a way that doesn't feel fair. Not that doesn't feel fair, the way that totally feels fair. And I kind of liken it to like rides at a theme park. And I know this isn't going to be true for every ride.
This is going to make Damiani mad.
Well, what I mean by that is...
You can't compare anything to anything.
I'm just trying to give people a frame of reference. What I mean by this is we had a really great night at Labo.
Yeah.
One that was like unexpectedly fun, and things that we didn't think were going to be that cool were that cool. But at the same time, I also feel like we kind of got our fun out of it, where it was like, this was really good for the amount of time that we were willing to give it. I don't think this is something we're going to be revisiting in 6 months.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And that's okay. I don't think every single experience in life needs to be better for more than a day. Some of the best experiences that I've had have lasted only a day. But this is also $60, which is another thing to consider. And so it's like, man, if I got this for, I don't know, a lower amount, whatever that would be, I would probably feel better about it than I do. But that out of the way, that's basically my negative things to say about Labo. The rest of it is positive. And here's why it is positive. Is because building anything, it makes you realize just how complex stuff is in a way that you normally don't get to appreciate. Like, think about all of the things that you do in your life where you're like, yeah, this thing is there. This has existed forever. It's fine. And you don't think about it. You don't think how it came to be or why it exists or the things that make it work. And this is going to sound so stupid, I think, at some level. But building the fishing rod, the way that you start out, you build the pole. And you're like, what is this? And you're like, you see the fishing rod and you're like, where does this fit in the fishing rod? And then you make it, and then you build all three, and then there's this moment where it's like, slide the smaller part of the fishing rod into the bigger part of the fishing rod. And I don't know if this is true for everybody, but true for me, just sitting there like a big dork, I'm just sliding it in and out, going, wow, like this is kind of cool. This like very mechanical, simple thing. I'm seeing why this works and why they had me bend this piece at the end to make it stick. And it's awesome. But what's extra awesome, and I feel like because maybe I play so many video games or I've just been doing this for a long time, I can never reach that level. The enjoyment that my girlfriend had with this fishing game was like unreal. Where like I played it once and my line broke and I was like, oh, that sucks. Then I went up to go get a drink and she was sitting there and she's like, no, I gotta catch the shark. And what was so cool about how this game was presented is you build this fishing rod, it's got string that you can pull up and down on, and it just sort of throws you in. Later, it's like, hey, go check out this Discover thing if you want to learn how to play the game. But it doesn't start that way. It just throws you in, and you go down and you're like, oh, wait, the deeper I go down, there are more fish. And you can just kind of choose what you want to get fixated on. She really wanted to get this like stingray and shark, and she kept doing it over and over and over again. And because we were dealing with like a physical rod and not just a controller, she would get so excited when a fish would bite the line. She would actually like jump up and scream, and she would pull on it. And the way that the string works is it's like this thing, and the string is wrapped around it, and it's at the end it's connected by rubber bands. And what would happen is she would get so excited that the string would move away from this unit that it was supposed to be on and get wrapped up in the rubber bands. And so every single time, like, she would do it and it would wrap around, and I would go and I would fix it and be like, okay, let's be mindful of this. It didn't matter because she was so excited to catch the fish every single time. Well, not every single time, but almost every single time, it would get wrapped around the rubber band. It would break. And it was like, this is great. Like, this little thing of cardboard that we spent some time making, and seeing this excitement and seeing like you getting so excited that you got to reel the thing fast, and even little touches, like there's a tiny flap of cardboard that will make the sound of you reeling it in, like imitate that sound.
Oh, cool.
Which is really cool. And I guess the ultimate point is it made me realize how fun it is to just bring something into the world, like following instructions or not, stupid little cardboard thing or not, like. We also had that reaction when we made the RC car. The first time that we just like turned it on, it just vibrated, and we're like, "Wait, this has a camera in it?" And just the process of discovery is so much fun, and I can't imagine what that would be like for kids. So Damiani, hearing all of this, still just checked out.
I guess in the specific instance with Labo, the creation of the fishing rod in this part, part of me wants to, like, I guess I'm gonna push back and challenge here.
Yeah,
like,
please.
Do you get more? I mean, I'm getting the creation part of it. Like, you have like an investment in this thing you've made, so I'm understanding that a little bit better.
Right.
But in terms of the enjoyment of the experience after that, like when you're playing the game or using it, like, how does that stack up to, like, sorry if I get the game wrong, it was the arcade game, Sega Bass Fishing, right? With the actual, like, had, like, the rod and everything, or, like, the part of the rod, and you could reel it in. Like,
yeah.
it kind of, like, it's simulating, like, it's simulating reeling it in and everything, and, like, I don't know, like, I'm thinking, like, the best fishing experiences I had in a video game, because there's still a video game here, and I like Rumble did so much for me, like in Ocarina of Time fishing. Comparing it to Ocarina of Time, Kyle, you like that?
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time's fishing with the Rumble pack, or even Final Fantasy 15's fishing.
Yeah.
Like when you were talking about like getting your girlfriend getting fixated on catching things, I was like, oh man, in like 15 in that fishing pond, I was like, I'm getting that, like, what was it, the Lord or the hardest fish or whatever in the lake. You had to like wait to and go at night with like with Gladio to go try and get, and I was like,
I never got that thing.
Every time I failed, I was like, I hate this.
Yeah.
Why? Like, I guess I'm trying to argue, like, I get invested, and like, I don't feel like I needed the physical thing to get invested. But
Right.
I'm more, the question for you is, I'm curious about, is there no other analogous experience to like using, like, constructing this cardboard hybrid rod versus like the arcade experiences, or even like home ones where they've done like the fake, like, you know, fishing rod thing? Like, how's it differ?
So I think the point of comparison is less to do with traditional video games. Like, I think you're going to get less out of it, and it will make less sense if you're comparing it to something like all of those other video games, and more like a science experiment kind of satisfaction. A comparison for me, like when I was in college, I took a number of programming classes, and I was terrible at it, and I moved on to other things. But that's not the point here. The point here is I remember when I first made a program, and I was just like, it was built to do a very specific thing, and then I just kept running it because I was like, wait, like these weird symbols that I put in made this thing happen. It felt kind of like magic, and that's sort of the thing here. And I don't want to say like, hey, you build the fishing rod in Nintendo Labo and it'll be a transformative experience to you. I don't want to oversell it that way. But what I'm saying is the appeal is having those jumps where it's like, okay, wait, how is this cardboard going to work? And then you see it take shape, and that's a jump, and you're like, oh, that's really cool. And then you take another jump when you're actually playing the game, because it's like, how are they going to use this thing that I built? Oh, that's how they used it. And so what I mean is, it's like, it's the process of building and seeing the application of it, rather than like, oh, this is an excellent video game that I can't wait to boot up and play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, so
Okay.
I can see that. So like, this is the type of thing that would like have appeal in like perfect demographics, like schools. Like
Yeah.
having that like experience where you have like kids pair up in groups basically, and go through like the same experience that you both just had.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm getting it. I'm just regurgitating what you said, but like I get that appeal to it. I guess maybe like in the past, a lot of it I guess has to do with like who you're doing it with. Like any type of company can make an experience better, even if it's something you don't necessarily enjoy liking. Doing it with like friends or loved ones,
right,
definitely makes it better. I guess I've done things in the past that are similar to like just creating your own thing and like the joy and experience of like doing that.
Model rockets.
I guess like I'm not like I don't see like for me, just arguing for me,
right?
Like any of the stuff they presented so far, like in terms of the building process, that isn't grabbing me and getting me like interested. I think maybe they haven't presented the right kit yet. Or someone on YouTube hasn't, like the do-it-yourself ones, hasn't shown off one that's like, okay, that speaks more to me and actually has me interested in trying this out. So I wonder if it's like maybe that as well. Because I do definitely see everything you just talked about, like in the experience with the creation part of it. Like I understand that and I do enjoy that.
Right.
For whatever reason, my brain's saying like you're not going to get that out of doing like creating the robot kit, the backpack robot kit, or
right. I have no experience with that,
or the piano one that like Ian has done. I was like, I don't see myself getting that satisfaction from that. So,
I'll say this, and maybe that will kind of speak to what you're thinking about. Like the entire time that we went to GameStop and on the drive home, I was like, maybe this is gonna suck. Like having nothing but doubt about it the whole time, because I think it's one of those things where just looking at what you create, it's like, this looks like such a little kid's toy. Is this even for me? Can I get anything out of this? I think what Nintendo Labo does a really good job of is they kind of encourage you to be playful with it, and they reveal things at like kind of a good pace. So like the RC car, I didn't know everything I was going to be able to do, that I was going to be able to change like the level of vibration with the different Joy-Cons. I didn't know there was going to be a camera on it. And so when it's like, okay, it's time to use this thing and bring it to life, it's like, oh wait, there's this other stuff we can do. And they kind of like hold back that layer of it until just the right moment. What if I told you that in Nintendo Labo, and this blew me away and I haven't completely dug into it yet, it happened at the end of the fishing rod thing, there are characters in this game. There are characters that will come out and talk to you about this initiative that they want to do. There's this light framework of a story.
There's lore to Labo?
There's lore in Labo, like to some
Labo
degree.
Initiative.
Yes. Yes.
Uh-oh.
There's some degree
They're
of
recruiting
lore.
you into
I'm buying in.
Right. And
I gotta
that's,
get that robot suit.
and then they go, again, they surprise you. They encourage you also to go and make your own things.
Oh,
and
sure.
To remix things. And I think that's really cool too. And it makes me nervous. I don't know how I'm going to do that. But there was more there than I was expecting. I still don't know if it was $60 worth, but yeah.
I think you have to be a genius engineer to be able to develop these things.
Totally.
Not just the software, but to be able to like make this product that can be folded.
Right.
Like you can just make sheets of cardboard and someone can turn this into a product that can be used for this game. It's like it's incredible for me to like think about the planning process behind that.
Yeah. I'm really curious to get numbers on how well this does.
Yeah.
As well. All right. Moving on. Kyle, there's a game that I feel like you were a little bit hesitant to talk about, but I really want you to talk about just because I've been meaning to get to it for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the audience would be interested in hearing your take on it as well, and that is Iconoclasts.
Yes. So, this is funny. I remember choosing between Celeste and Iconoclasts, and Iconoclasts seemed like the one where the story mattered more. Mm-hmm. And like it, your character is taller than 5 sprites. It's just
that's funny because one of my favorite things about Celeste is the story.
I was like, yeah, in retrospect.
I made a mistake. I made a huge mistake because like the story matters too much in Iconoclasts. Ooh. It is just it's the polar opposite. You can see where too much lore, too much conversation can bog down a 2D exploration / action game.
So I wouldn't say I'm confused, but maybe a little bit puzzled by that coming from you because you normally really appreciate a lot of lore, a lot of story,
Yes.
a lot of character development. So why is that troublesome here?
So like imagine playing through like a really colorful Super Metroid where like it feels good to shoot, it feels good to like slide and jump and like do cool things in the air. But then like every 5 frames it turns into like a Final Fantasy XIII dialogue where it's just like this community is under the influence of those people who like hate sin, and once you do a certain amount of sins your house explodes, and so child, you cannot sin, you should get rid of that wrench, and if you do choose to get rid of that wrench, please don't come here anymore, I'll be in sector 13, you'll see me later there. And then your character is just like, but my dad had this wrench, so I'm gonna like, oh, I hate it. I'm like, shut up. And so I'm just like mashing X, and then like I just end up in this other scenario where it's just like, hi, I'm a new character, like I'm a bad guy for now, but like you'll learn to like me. It's just shut up everybody. And so it was just hard to enjoy on that level. And so even though I was liking like their unique boss fights, they're like kind of interesting mechanics in how to explore an environment and get secrets, I just couldn't care about this world, and like I backed out. I'm not playing that game anymore.
Yeah, no, I think that is a very, 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 very valid complaint. I guess the question for me is it front-loaded? Is it bombarding you throughout? Like, how often is it interrupting you with that kind of...
It's frequent.
Man.
Yeah. It's like, it's the driver for going to each new environment. The new environment isn't like, oh, there'll be new interesting game mechanics here. It's like, oh, and this is where we go next in the story.
Do you ever feel like it makes good on all of that talking? Does it ever show you a scene where it's like, oh, man, like this really drives home the thing they were yammering on about?
I'm sure the writer would tell me yes. I'm sure the writer says, this is all leading to something.
Right.
You're going to find out the church has nefarious means, and sin isn't literal. They actually they have a blanket over everybody's eyes. And it's just like, yeah, I get that. I get what the message you're trying to say immediately.
Right.
Please, just let me like shoot and jump.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that sounds really unfortunate. Sounds like the creator was really passionate about telling this story.
I know,
but like it's
Damiani,
clearly like getting in the way of like an actual good game. Because it's like from what I gather from you, it sounds like you actually you enjoyed playing the actual game.
Yeah.
It's just that the pacing that they decided to go with was just not right.
Right.
Like you can't stumble upon, or you can't have this like gameplay stumble on story elements for like long segments. Like sometimes you gotta let things breathe a little bit more, and it sounds like they may be a little inexperienced in that regard.
Yeah, it's funny. There's just sometimes where, like in an RPG, like a text box is a certain size. There's just sometimes where like the text box will be like they'll just extend it to listeners. Just imagine like a normal text box like taking up 2 blocks, right? It's 2 blocks tall. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it'll be like 5 or 6 blocks tall. It's just like, I really need to say all this, and it's just you don't.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
Which I do feel bad about saying, and so yeah, those are personal qualms, right? That like just I can definitely imagine people getting into this story, and maybe I just wasn't in a space to enjoy it.
So when you're actually playing the game,
mm-hmm.
like what does it do like well? I guess like you can just describe the basic concept of it, but I'm not entirely familiar with Iconoclasts, so I don't know what the hook is, or if there's anything that like makes. Beautiful
2D art. Just love the sprites. But like the actual like playing through the game is you blast like Samus does, like Mega Man does, and jump. And like you can just like the times I enjoy it the most are when there are hooks in the air and you can kind of like swing from the hooks and jump into a secret area.
Yes.
Things like that. The boss fights are interesting. There's just unique times, and the wrench, I guess, is you use it for I should have explained the wrench, I guess, is you use this to like fix things, but also that's to swing from things, but also to fight things. And so when there's an enemy that's like, oh, I got to hit you with the wrench first and then like blast you or butt stomp you. So just like its motion is fun. It has a cool motion as a 2D platformer, and I think that is innately enjoyable, right? Anytime like you're just hopping around and jumping and sliding and just like feel like you're having a good time.
sounds like you would have preferred it to be more like Metroid story narrative, like in the background.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But I mean, that wasn't the point of the game, right? Like,
yeah, like
it'd be me telling like the game to be a wholly different game, which I don't think is fair.
Do you think that maybe part of the problem is expectation, right? Like where you've played so many of these style of games where the narrative isn't so in your face all the time. Like, do you think that was a problem going through Iconoclasts, where maybe you just the parts that you were enjoying were familiar, and so you wanted more of that?
I mean, I guess, Ben, there's just like a bunch of like games I don't play, and there's a bunch of stories I don't read or watch. This is one of those, and I should have known. I should have known from the title. It's called Iconoclasts. You know,
so means like specifically what it's talking about is also not appealing.
Right. Like if I was to watch the series of Iconoclasts, I'd be like, no, it's okay. I'm not in. And like I should have known. And so when you say like expectations, you're right. I had expectations of it as this other thing when it's like it was pretty clearly advertising what it is.
Sure. Just like out of curiosity, what is that style of thing that you don't really care for?
If there's a story that starts with this girl whose dad is dead but like left her something behind, that's a red flag. And for that reason I'm out. You know, it's just I should have just said, no, okay, I'm good. I'm good. Hate that. That's never interesting. Oh, he left me his rent. Like hate it every time.
I feel like so many stories, specifically from video games, like somebody leaving you something behind. That's a very common thing. Why so bothersome?
To me, it's a lazy inspiration. Your character has to be motivated to go on an adventure at any point. For that character's motivation just to be like, oh, this is what my dead father would have wanted, and I want to make my dead father proud, that's a weak motivation. And so, yeah, it's basically, it's illegal for her to have this wrench in this world. This organization wants to control all repairs. And so... It's like that's like the Fahrenheit 451 version of this is like, no, you can't have wrenches, everybody. And so it's just like it's silly without recognizing how silly that is.
Sure.
And there's a version of Dead Parent left you something that could be exciting, but if you're doing that without a wink, I don't know how to take the story.
There are two games that I'm curious about whether or not you play. Have you played Celeste?
No,
okay.
I regret it. Celeste is probably next.
Yeah, I think you'd really like Celeste. I know it can be annoying when people say that, but just like from a comparison standpoint with Iconoclast, I think it would be interesting.
So I'll tell you, when looking at screenshots and watching trailers for Celeste versus Iconoclast, what appealed to me to Iconoclast is like the worlds that seem like worlds, environments that seem like environments. And when I look at Celeste, I just see spike walls and like somebody like super Meat Boying around spike walls.
Yeah, I get you, and that's what I thought it was, and that's why I liked it.
Yeah.
I think when I don't want to give credit where credit is undue, but Celeste is an extremely personal story.
Yeah.
And so I think it can get away with that a little bit more. It's not really about the world. It's about what the characters are going through.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a little bit more justifiable in that sense. And also the other game I was curious about, have you played, and I need to finish it, have you played any Axiom Verge?
No.
Yeah, I'd be curious to get your take on that too.
I'll tell you, like, I'll never play that one either.
Why?
The main character, can't stand him. I feel like I was watching Bloodworth play it or something, and I was just like, I can't get into this guy. I can't fight for him.
To me, like when I think of my experience with Axiom Verge, he just kind of fades in the background, like is not a sore spot.
He's not that guy. Won't fight for him. No.
Okay.
I'd fight against him. He'd be like a good character that's like, I'm the boss, fight me. But like, I can't be like, I'm the main character, let's go. Like, I can't be that guy.
Interesting. All right. Well, we have our answer.
I'll tell you, like, another really, like, the aspect of Axiom Verge that is like interesting is like where things are like glitching out.
Yeah.
That's like a completely unappealing to me. I don't want to play that game.
All right.
Feels bad. I know Axiom Verge is a good game, and I know it's a good Metroidvania style game, but you gotta know, like, I got.
You gotta know where you stand.
I got weird red flags.
And this guy.
Yep.
And the glitching out.
Yep.
And dead parents leaving his stuff.
Yeah.
That's where I stand. Yeah. Okay. I like it. I appreciate it. Damiani, where do you stand on BattleTech?
Ooh, BattleTech. Well, I mean, so the reason I had an interest in this game, I was kind of like looking at the release list of games that were coming out, and I was like, you know what? Like, we should give some coverage to games that like really probably wouldn't otherwise get coverage. You know, want to focus on something I might not usually play. And I saw BattleTech, I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, wait a second, let me dig into this. And as I dug further into it, it's like, oh, this is kind of like a spiritual next installment in these long running series that like has other like franchises. Like, I was like, oh, Mech Warrior and Battle Mech. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I actually played a lot of Mech Warrior 2 when I was younger and stuff. I actually played a lot of PC games in the 90s, actually, early 90s, actually. I was like, okay, you know what? Let's try this. And I watched it. I was like, I like the art that they used for the narrative stuff, for like the cutscenes, essentially. Instead of like rendering out like movies or using in-game visuals, it's basically like drawn art, essentially, with like a little bit like layered with a little bit of like motion effects here and there on certain like characters and stuff. But the actual game is it's a strategy game and turn-based strategy game, and I generally enjoy those. So I was like, okay, mechs,
Yep.
turn-based strategy game, little bit of like a smaller, you know, budget game going into this. So I was like, let's give this a try. And I feel like I at least enjoyed my time with it. Basically, it is, you go through these pretty large-sized maps. I like how the terrain and stuff matters in this game. Like a lot of the strategy, especially strategy RPGs I gravitate towards, the one thing I don't like about a lot of them is they tend to be like flat. Like it's like the chessboard. Like you move, but like height and stuff doesn't always matter in that. Line of sight doesn't matter. You don't have to consider variables like that. So this is a game where you have to consider all of that. You have to consider your range of movement on top of like, oh, this thing's above me, so like it can hit me easier, and it's gonna get like, it has the height advantage. Or I am literally hiding behind this rock. This gun can't hit me, but it has like a, you know, it can fire a rocket out and still hit me from here. Like it's way more, there's a lot more variables that you need to keep track of in each map than I would say something like a Fire Emblem, or even like Valkyria Chronicles. Like this, I think, is a little bit more complicated than those types of games.
For me personally, though, while I agree that, and I like having all these interesting variables to think about, I do think there is a line that you can cross, and then once that line is crossed, where there are so many things to think about during a fight that it just becomes super tedious and not fun.
So yes, so here's some things that started to like irk me a little bit. They really go into like really like fine detail in terms of like your mechs, in terms of like the parts, like the arms, the head. They all have their own like shields and HP and stuff, and it felt very hard to keep track. It's very easy to keep track of, but it's very hard to be actively thinking about that and finding the will to take it into account, because like you'll see like your general HP, like your shields and your HP, and you'll take some damage. You're like, oh, that's whatever, but really like someone's attacking you on your right arm with your cannon or whatever, that's taking the brunt of the damage. It's becoming weakened. It can be destroyed and fall off. So you can lose parts of your mechs, and you need to take that into account. So like direction you face, like, you know, so which side's exposed and stuff. You gotta
that actually sounds really cool.
Yeah. So I mean, it's cool, but at the same time, each enemy you gotta like look at, like you gotta spend, like it's very methodical, and it actually it slows everything down. If you want to play it properly, you really need to like look at everything and be like, this enemy's okay, so its cockpit is very vulnerable right now, it's taking a lot of damage. So if I can get this mech into this position and get a shot on that, it'll actually destroy them, because like that part destroys, pilot dead. Doesn't matter if their HP is like 80%. That thing dies, they're dead. So there's no glowing parts or anything like that. So it's very realistic looking. You have to get into like the stats, the granular stuff, and pay attention to that, on top of like movement and everything. And I think it's just, you got to spend a lot more time looking into that each turn, and it slows it. It definitely, it's not meant to be fast paced at all. It is a turn based strategy game. I think it's very easy for someone like me who comes from games that concede are a little bit more simplistic. It's easy to overlook that stuff, and you take some time to get acclimated to that. That you need to factor in these things into your decision making. Otherwise, you're gonna pay like the price. Like, you can't just simply look at raw HP. You gotta take all these things into consideration. So in that regard, has a lot of depth to it.
Yeah, that's actually something I like about turn-based systems conceptually. Is you think of Gundam, you think of being a new type and being able to make all these calculations on the fly.
Yeah.
It's like Damiani has to be a new type, but he gets all the time he needs.
Right.
But like basically in that world, it's just somebody thinking really fast. Just like, I need to use my right arm to get his cockpit, but if I expose my left side, I'll be like, you're being an anime character.
Right. You're being an anime character with the benefit of free space. Yeah, you bring up a really good point, and I enjoy real-time strategy games, but I never feel like I spend as much time with them as turn-based games for that reason. Like, I just can't do that. Like, I do think I can figure out a solution and come up with a good strategy, but, like, I do everything slow. You know, give me time.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you're like, okay, your base is getting invaded while you're going out and getting this other thing. That's cool in theory, but it makes me so stressed out.
Oh, me too.
That a lot of times
yeah.
I'm like, no.
Definitely agree with that.
Yeah. I like Fire Emblem. It's like, my guy could beat that guy. You know, that's like that simple. Just like I'll move him up. I can be that guy.
That's sort of like, I mean, that's true of Fire Emblem to an extent. Like when I say Fire Emblem is more simplistic, you see like some base stats and stuff, and they basically do an equation and they give you a number, and if that number is higher than your opponent's number, technically this should be the outcome. But there is still an RNG layer under it, like crits and stuff like that,
and misses.
Like crits and accuracy or misses factor in a lot into Fire Emblems. Like things will not go your way, but like. This still has that, and like you still miss, you can still technically like crit, I believe, but it's like in Fire Emblem it's just like literally your enemy's in front of you. You don't have to like target apart. You don't have to worry about like line of sight. Like as long as you're far enough away from a range, you're out of range. But like if you're in range, it's like you're getting hit. Like whereas in this, like you're behind a mountain, like they don't have the right type of weapon, they can't hit you. That's still good. Like even though you're within their range and stuff. And like movement and stuff. This game, it's interesting. It took a little bit of adjustment period. Is that I kept asking like when I was streaming it, 'cause that's how I played it first. It's like, how do I tell where the range of movement is for these enemies and stuff? And they're like, well, that's not really what's important. It's that when you move, you see your range of movement. It's these like we basically can move across like these white dots. It's how it's sort of a grid, but like since it's 3D terrain, you move to a dot position, and as you move your cursor to those spots. If you're within enemy range, it will show white lines, which shows that they could technically move into range of you within that spot. Red lines mean you're within firing range of their weapons. So like, and they'll show like a linear line, which means like you can break that line of sight. If it's like a curved line, it means you can't break that line.
They have those missiles.
Yeah, so you gotta like spend some time if you're not used to these types of games. You gotta spend some time processing that information, taking it in. I think the first two missions, the first one's a tutorial, the second one's kind of like an easier beginner mission. They give you enough leeway where you can like screw up and see this happening in real time and process it and be like, okay, I should not do that next time. I should try doing this. And in that regard, I think the game is very good. In terms of like easing new players in, but also having that level of depth that you can see that like once you get further in, it's definitely for people who are really into like turn-based strategy games. Like it's gonna push you further. But it's.
I think you're selling me on it. Like I think I want to give it a shot.
You should definitely give it a shot.
Some day in the distant future.
I think the only problem with it is I forget. I believe it was a kickstarted game.
Yeah.
It's lacking a lot of polish. Visually, it's a little bit rough. Like
I can deal with that.
Yeah, it's very low tech in that regard. It's a little bit buggy, both visually and game crashing stuff. They have been updating the game to try and address a lot of that. But playing it when it first came out, end of missions, end of the first tutorial mission, the game just straight up like closed. I was like, oh, okay. And everyone was like, yep, it just does that. You got to restart the game and stuff. So there's minor things like that. I guess when it comes to PC gaming, people get a little bit more annoyed when you don't have like these basic things aren't going right.
Yeah. But
you have to understand it's also a Kickstarter game. I did see today that NVIDIA drivers just updated to be like game ready for BattleTech. like Nvidia's newest driver update was like BattleTech, it will run better with BattleTech. I was like, okay, so maybe one of the parts there. I didn't get too terribly far into it, so I don't know how. I expect it to get way more. Like, these are really long missions. I can see them. They're gonna take like, some of them can take like many hours probably if you're really going like all out on them. So in that story mode, and the story was okay from what I saw at the beginning. Essentially, you get to pick your backstory. You'd like this guy. You get to pick your backstory and everything. You get to pick like your origins, like basic stuff, but like it's kind of fun. Character appearance and everything like that. And then regardless of what you do, you're basically assigned to like guard like the heir to the throne of this planet or whatever. And a coup. The game starts in the middle of a coup, and then things don't go well, and you flash forward a few years, and you are off-world with a salvage group, and you're just trying to make ends meet, and things aren't going well. Like, funds are running out, like, situations get a little bit desperate, and, like, you kind of are the decision maker of the group at that point because you've proven yourself. You gotta start making decisions for this ragtag group to basically just survive.
So there's, like, a little banner saga in there? Like, between the actual, like, combat scenarios, there's, like...
Oh yeah, like after the first mission, like after all that plays out, it's basically like, all right, so what do you think we should do? Like here, like we're out of funds, like, but like we need to take missions that are within the law, sort of, or we could go outside the system. But like if you pick that, someone's like, well, it introduces these problems and stuff. Do you really want to go this way? So yeah, there is a lot of like that user input going on in these dialogue conversations. I don't know how much of an outcome it'll have on like the direction of the game. I didn't play enough of that to see if it really alters anything like that. But if it does, that's really cool as well. So like if it takes you to different missions or something or a different path, that would be pretty awesome. But yeah, like it's pretty enjoyable so far.
I guess my question, and something that I feel like maybe I can relate to with Kyle on some level with it, is specifically with strategy games. Specifically with strategy games where you have a lot to think about, I can get annoyed at the story. Like if the story is not fantastic and gripping, it feels like it's interrupting, and I just want to spend time getting better and thinking more about what I'm doing in the game. So I guess a better way to say it is it's like, listen, man, I've got all of this other stuff to worry about. I don't have time to pay attention to your less than good story. And so my question to you is, I'm fine with it if it's not constantly interrupting, constantly taking like more time than it needs to.
So in Mission, for me personally, it got a little overbearing. You still can do. It didn't really. I don't remember it other than the tutorial mission holding up the action.
Right. It
just kind of plays out as you're doing it. There's a lot of banter, a lot of developments that it is kind of hard to keep track of that. The narrative development, as well as all like your mission objectives and like enemies, like stats and all that. It's like it's maybe a little much. In between, it felt good because it was basically not too long, and it was determining where I would go next. It was like I felt like I had at least the illusion of authority in terms of I am still playing the game at this point, even though it's the story. It is still like gonna give me. It's gonna affect what I do next. Like maybe it'll affect my stats, or because your backstory affects like certain attributes of you. So you always feel like that, and then like you get access to like basically like the ship, where you can do like all your upgrades and stuff like that, interact with like characters. So it's like that's very traditional like strategy. Like again, like for Fire Emblem, it's like go to the barracks and talk to your character. You want more side story with your characters? Go talk with your characters there. And who knows? Right. Maybe it unlocks new recruits. I don't know.
I think the reason that I say that is, especially recently, like Into the Breach is fantastic. It gives you a sense of world and place, but it just finds really nice subtle ways to include that stuff around the edges. But otherwise, you're just in there. It's just like, all right, we're on this map, we're dealing with this thing, you've got these conditions to worry about. We did that, all right, pick the next one. And it's very, very quick and snappy. And even like XCOM 2, there's definitely a story, there are definitely characters, there are definitely things happening, there are stakes, but it's not pulling you away from all of the systems that you have to deal with and engage with.
I didn't play enough to say for sure. I don't think the narrative is going to lead to that problem.
Yeah.
But it does seem like there's a lot of prep work you have to do between missions. Like mech's damage it's persistent. So it doesn't automatically repair between battles. So you can choose to neglect not upgrading or repairing your mechs, and you can just send them into the next battle like at half HP, or your cockpit area is about to die. You didn't want to fix it. Okay, cool. You better be careful in the next mission. Like stuff like that. Like I could see like possibly like prep work taking a little bit too long, but I think some people do like that about strategy games. It's like it's just as much about the planning going into a new battle as it is the battle unfolding. So in that regard, it is extremely slow paced like that. So if you're not into that slow pace, very methodical style, like more methodical than usual, that I can see some people be like, man, it's just too slow for me. Like I want something that like cuts out a little bit here and there, and like I can see like some people like I'm gonna stick with like a game like Fire Emblem because I don't have to. I mean, Fire Emblem has way too much story in general, but minus the story factors, it's a little bit more simplistic. Like, oh, give each person like a new sword and stuff. You know what? Thinking about it, actually, maybe Fire Emblem isn't the best one because I actually there are times I spend a lot of time doing prep work in a Fire Emblem mission. So maybe
for sure, yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking of like I don't know, maybe like a Mario and Rabbids is probably better. That's way more streamlined than any of this stuff. So maybe Mario, if you like Mario and Rabbids, you might not, and that like you like that pacing. This might be a little too slow paced for you. I feel.
Gotcha. Interesting. So it will potentially appeal to a very specific type of player, but the players that it does appeal to, it will appeal to very strongly.
For sure. And I don't know how many other games are out there like this because I'm kind of like at this
very
level.
fair.
Yeah, because I don't usually go this deep dive into this level of a game. And I was like, like I wonder when's the last time some game like this scratched this specific type of itch, to use that overused phrase.
That's a good phrase.
It's a good phrase.
Used a lot.
You know what else is a good phrase? HOTTAKE! Fun fact, I think a lot of the audience knows this, but just a reminder, just because I find it so adorable. Like, if you go back and you watch the first episode of Frame Trap, Kyle, you came up with HOTTAKE. Like, you came up with that.
Right on the spot.
Right on the spot. Right on the spot.
So is that you just like, lamenting your creation there? The terror you've unleashed?
I just never see it coming.
Okay.
You never see yourself coming? Your own ideas?
No, I never see the HOTTAKE just slicing into the conversation. It just hits me like a truck.
Yeah.
And ever since, it's been a huge part of the show. This week on HOTTAKE, I really do try, and I'm trying to be even better at, and especially this week, I have tailored the HOTTAKE around the panelists. I want to think about something that is going to be interesting to them that they want to talk about. Wouldn't be surprised if I got through this and Kyle was like, I don't want to talk about this, man. But I'm trying. And there was a piece of news that I have a lot of opinions about that we haven't really talked a lot about on Easy Allies. At least this specific piece of news. And that is, in March, there was a job posting for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I've pulled up an article here on Silicon Era. And just for full context, we're going to read that article real quick.
Okay.
All right? Okay, so in this article, which was published on March 11th, Square Enix recently put up a new job listing seeking level planners for Final Fantasy VII Remake. The recruitment message has info on its requirements and a progress update on the game's development. Here are the highlights for the job listing from Square Enix. A major project of fully remaking Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation 4 can work in the best development environment. Again, if you want, this is for the job posting. Gain experience in flat organization. Use your talents to your heart's content. We're recruiting core members for the project. Work on a big title for a chance to help your career and enjoy flexibility with discretionary work system and good benefits. As the level planner, you'll organize the workflow of location development, brainstorm level designs for each location, and implement data using Unreal Engine 4. Square Enix also shared the current state of the project. While Final Fantasy VII Remake's programs for general functions and contents are being tested within the development team as required, the part about reproducing the original work in high-quality graphics is reaching a satisfactory standard. And we've come to the conclusion that in order to meet fan expectations, we must increase in quality another step higher. Therefore, in addition to the current members for the Final Fantasy VII Remake development, we must establish a core group that includes level planners, battle planners, designers, engineers, and various types of jobs to tackle the production of the big title. There's more we can read here, but that basically got to the core of it. I'm not going to go on and read the rest of the thing. Before I go any further, I have my own opinions on this. After reading this job posting for the level planner and the idea that they want to exceed this concept of exceeding the quality of just remaking Final Fantasy VII, of just hitting that bar of that Final Fantasy VII hit, how do you feel about that? How does that make you feel about this thing?
It's funny, Ben. I remember seeing that headline, and I'm like, what? Video games hire people all the time.
Right.
I did not read that part. I did not read the part where they're saying, like, hey, we need a core team.
A core member, a fundamental part of this process.
We need this core team, and we need people to start pitching level ideas. Yeah, maybe that means they're expanding the scope of what Final Fantasy VII was meant to be. Maybe that means they need people to start working on episode 2. But it doesn't sound like, hey, like somebody left and we need to fill that position. It doesn't sound like this is the normal course of a game's development. It sounds like they went out of their way to say this is a special situation, which is weird.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already assuming that Final Fantasy VII Remake is not close. What it does is it makes me think that the initial reveals were plainly dishonest.
Yes.
I mean, that reveal trailer is still a very good trailer, but I think it was PSX later that year where we got to see gameplay. And, it's the first, 2 minutes of the game of Final Fantasy VII. So I guess, maybe that wasn't dishonest. Maybe that's actually what we will end up playing. But, man, it's just so far out. It just seemed like, and I guess I can relate to this personally, they announced something without realizing the scope of it, what it would actually take to make that thing.
Right. And I do think that is an important thing to be said, within Easy Allies, but specifically just with me, I know how easy it is to think that something is going to happen exactly how you want to, and it's going to be great, and then it doesn't. That's a relatable thing. That's an understandable thing. And so before any talk or criticism comes, totally. You have to understand that. Not that it's a good thing, not that it's something that should be promoted, but it does happen. I think my problem with it is I feel like I've been stuck in this vortex for 15 years at this point. So much of Final Fantasy is stuck in this, oh my god, I can't believe it, I'm so excited. Let's drag this out forever. Wait, you didn't do that? We've been through, just as a company, I feel like they've been through this so much. Why are we not learning? Why are we not changing? I can imagine that, if they had gotten out on stage and said, listen, we have no idea what we're doing yet, nothing's put in place, but we're going to make the Final Fantasy VII Remake, that just would have felt like a more honest, real, and totally acceptable, everyone's still excited kind of announcement.
Yeah, it would have sucked, though.
I mean,
I think that would have sucked. I think that would not have hit anybody hard.
You don't think so?
No.
Because at some point, you think about the history of Final Fantasy VII, and you think about the tech demo on PS3, I think acknowledging its existence in official capacity still carries a lot of weight with it. Don't you? I don't know if that would have sucked.
Because I think for a long time, it's what would a Final Fantasy VII Remake even be? Why do you want that? I remember on my own show, on Final Bossman, saying, do you really want a Final Fantasy VII Remake? The trailer said this is real, but it said this... It showed how real this is. The trailer said, we are committed to this. The trailer said, we really want this to be a big deal. And it communicated all of those things. And I think just saying, hey, we're going to make it, wouldn't communicate those things.
Okay.
I think for months we would have wondered, what is it going to be, though?
I'm wondering what it's going to be now that all these stories are coming out and they've showed that trailer.
Yeah.
Right? And so, to me, I guess... like, I get it at the time, in that moment, the trailer's the right call, and I understand that, or at least the more exciting call, but this is leaving like a bad taste in my mouth because it feels dishonest. It feels like it's not going to be representative of what we're going to get because we're still hiring for core members. We're changing the scope of the project. Like, that to me is more frustrating and angering and colors my perception in a negative way than if it was a smaller scale, less exciting announcement at the beginning. I don't know. What do you think, Don?
Yeah,
Be quiet.
I was gonna say, like, put it into a different perspective. How do you feel about RE2 remake? Like, all it was literally an announcement that it
Right.
exists, but we know nothing about it. Like, you can still be excited, but like, do you like? Imagine if that was how Final Fantasy VII remake was announced.
Right. It didn't hit as hard.
Yeah. Like, imagine if you had that RE2 trailer.
Yeah.
But-
yeah.
You're saying it didn't hit as hard, but I think with that announcement and the amount of time that has elapsed, like, think about Michael Huber's excitement for Resident Evil 2 Remake. If there's even like a whiff of it in anything, he's going to be excited through the roof. And if it's representative of what's actually going to come out, like, that's just going to come together in a way that feels really good and is better in the long run, right?
So for a long time, our reaction video to Final Fantasy VII was like our biggest video that we'd ever done.
Totally.
It probably still is. People wanted to see people react to that.
Right.
And there's just no way that people wanted to see people react to the We Do It. You know, it didn't have that scope. It didn't have that I don't know, mass appeal.
Right.
And so I think people who didn't even play Final Fantasy VII wanted to see people react to Final Fantasy VII Remake. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's the way to launch. You got to blow it up. They obviously blew it up too early.
Yeah.
I think at the time they really thought they could get it done. I think, just like,
Sure.
What's the name? Connect? What's their?
Sorry?
CyberConnect?
CyberConnect 2, yeah.
Yeah, CyberConnect 2. It's just like, oh, they make Naruto games, they'll just get it done. It'll be done in 2 years. I honestly think they thought that at the time.
Sure.
Yeah, I wonder with the new job postings and stuff. I wonder how much of it is like what Kyle was saying, that like before this point or before a point recently, they were very confident about it. I mean, and who knows if this is even for the first part, whatever. Because I mean, this is supposed to be a multi-part game. Like, each game is supposed to be a game's worth of content, but it's gonna be broken over. The original game is gonna be developed into multiple games. Because otherwise, it would take a one-to-one recreation would be like 10 plus years or something like that. But I wonder if they are revisiting those concepts, especially after Final Fantasy 15 has come out, and they keep adding on to Final Fantasy 15. They keep trying out some new stuff, like adding like comrades, like multiplayer. Like, I wonder how much of those tech developments and those findings are influencing, if at all, the Final Fantasy 7 Remake's development. Because maybe through the development of 15 and its post-release support, maybe they've seen some things like, hey, maybe we should try and go in this direction. Like, we've seen the reception to some of this stuff. We know that it would probably be better to do this, and we were doing this on 7 Remake. Maybe that isn't the best course of action. I feel like while we've seen like a sort of gameplay trailer, I think everyone's kind of the mindset that like they've done this one too many times already, that like it could be anything after that. Like that's not necessarily like the final thing that the game's gonna look like, though it should probably look close to that. So I think the next time they show off 7 Remake, it needs to be, one, impressive, but two, very reflective of what the final product is gonna be, and the light at the end of the tunnel needs to be like there. Like, it needs to be like, hey, like it's not in development crap anymore. Like, put a year on it or put like a release window. But I also think the reason like we're not seeing any of it is because like obviously it's Kingdom Hearts 3 spotlights right now. I don't think you're gonna hear anything about Final Fantasy Remake till Kingdom Hearts 3 is out. I don't think 7 Remake could be E3. But like I look at Kingdom Hearts 3 and like they had to change engines. They started on a different engine, went to Unreal 4,
right? And
this game is coming out sometime this year. Supposedly, it said 2018 on the end of one of the trailers. So it's like, all right, if that comes true, even if it comes out like next year, it's still like, okay. From the initial release 2013 to the launch of 6 years, but it exists. Yeah, Final Fantasy Remake, like, I more and more I just wonder why they announced it at that point. Like, it's so weird. Like, I know it was a 1-2 hit, but like Kingdom Hearts 3 would have been enough. that E3. Like I get so frustrated that like they release this trailer, everyone gets excited, and like now it's in jeopardy. It's like people are still kind of excited for it, but like the more time that goes by, it's like, what's going on with this? Like all those common things that you said, like the vortex of like we've been through this before. It's like the same doubts are creeping back. It's like, here we go again. Like Square Enix says, oh, we've learned a lot from development in the last 10 years. Games will come out sooner. It's like, okay, so where's Final Fantasy VII Remake? Like that is a current project. Why is it taking so long? You just said like 15's development taught you stuff, but you're still doing the same mistakes. It's like
it was E3 after the Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer. Because it was the versus 13 turned into 15 and Kingdom Hearts 3 were back to back.
And then it was
sorry.
So I think they just wanted that again. They wanted people cheering for them again.
So yeah, it came out after that, so that's even weirder.
Yeah.
I just think, as somebody who cares about Final Fantasy a lot, and I really feel like I do, I'm just kind of exhausted. And I think Final Fantasy VII Remake is a good point of comparison, right? Because when Final Fantasy VII came out, it was a huge deal. It was a game that was talked about. It's still talked about so much. There's so much to talk about with it. It was such a landmark thing. But all you needed was those 3 discs. You bought those 3 discs. You have Final Fantasy VII. You weren't missing out on anything. You didn't need to go see a movie. You didn't need to go on Crunchyroll, watch an anime. You didn't need to download the mobile game. You didn't need to download the DLC. You didn't need to get to the extra edition that changed the story. Like, I'm not saying any of these things individually are bad, but every time I think like, man, I should check in with Final Fantasy, it's not like, oh man, what singular story am I going to get swept up in that takes me to these different places that has a really cool and unique battle system? It's like, all right, what are all these little pieces I need to pick up to get the whole thing? And it sucks when you take something like Final Fantasy, when I think about those characters and I think about that singular experience I had, and it feels like it's getting put into this modern day blender. Like it's just ruining. It's not ruining it. I don't think in any way is a remake going to ruin my memories of Final Fantasy VII, but it is kind of sucky to think that it's going to be taken and changed and all of this stuff. Like, what does the grand scope even mean? Like, I just worry that their top priority isn't let's make a great game that people can enjoy. It's like, let's chase after all of these things. Like, sometimes I think that's why Bravely Default hit so hard, is it was just such a pared down, let's make a cool RPG. And so many times with Square Enix now, I feel like ultimately that's not what the end goal is. And that's why it's so frustrating to me.
Yeah,
despite really liking Final Fantasy 15.
As with many Square Enix things, I think actually visuals is super important to them. And they even like bring up like, hey, we want this to look visually good compared to our contemporaries.
Sure.
And so, Ben, I think they clearly care about the game.
Okay.
But I think they care about the game looking good. I think they care about how the game shows. I think they want people to be in awe when they look at the game. And so they might be caring about the wrong things, but I think they do care more about how the game looks than DLC is what I mean. I think they want it to be a showpiece for them. I think they want it to be something where that they're proud of. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Damiani has me convinced when he just said, like, I wonder if they'll look at 15. At that moment, I imagined there's a mode where you create your own character and the Final Fantasy VII characters will talk to you. And so, like, there'll still be the main story where you're Cloud wandering through these things.
Right.
But there's also, like, a mode where it's just, like, you get to self-insert yourself into that world. Mm-hmm. That will probably totally happen, just as it did with 15.
You talk about them really wanting the game to look good, and
yeah.
I think that is such a good point that you bring up, because every vibe I get from 13 and 15 and so many of what they're doing, they want to be this visual power. They want people to look at their games and marvel, and that's been true of Final Fantasy for a very long time. But underneath that, right, like you talked about, like, kind of the dog and pony show of how, like, that trailer was so impactful and hit people so hard and was like the biggest reaction video that we had. I think the ultimate point that I'm trying to make is that, like, the dog and pony show is fine, but if there's nothing underneath that, like, we'll only, just personally, won't we only fall for the dog and pony show so many times? Or do you think do you think we'll just keep falling victim to it? Or does it matter that there isn't that much underneath it?
It's funny, Ben. I think you can only play the Final Fantasy VII Remake card once.
Right.
I think the Final Fantasy 16 trailer, whenever it happens, it has a lot going against it. Because I do. I think people get worn out. I think people get tired of this stuff. Final Fantasy 13 had a lot of hype that Final Fantasy 15 didn't get.
Right. But because of that.
Because of what 13 ended up being.
Right.
Yep.
And I think a lot of the anticipation and the conversation around Final Fantasy 16 will be informed by Final Fantasy 15.
Yep. Which sold really well.
Right.
Final Fantasy 15 actually performed very, very well.
But it's a divisive game.
Yep.
I wonder, hearing all this, I wonder if maybe Square Enix is just, in regards to its mainline games in the Final Fantasy series, becoming too reactive instead of like trying to take the initiative to lead. Like Final Fantasy VII, when you think back to that game, it was like it was pretty much pioneering a lot of stuff.
So was Final Fantasy 15.
Was it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
What was it pioneering?
Pioneering road trip RPG.
A road trip RPG.
Yeah.
So when
like summons in an open world. Just to me, I was in awe of those things. That was a thing where they're like, hey, no other game's doing this, but I think we can pull this off.
Yep. I mean, playing the Final Fantasy 15 demo and summoning Ramuh for the first time, that hit me, man. That hit me like a 10 times. That was so cool. It was like kind of similar to seeing like the bombing run of Final Fantasy VII the first time I saw it and how hard that hit me. Like just this huge, like, I can't believe this is happening. Oh my God, look at the environment after the storm is raining down. Like, I think Final Fantasy 15 did a lot of cool stuff that I think in some ways is hard for people to like or appreciate because of A, the things the game does wrong, and B, the amount of how long they were waiting for Final Fantasy 15 and the expectations that created.
Yeah, I think BioShock Infinite had a very similar thing, actually.
Exactly. I agree with that completely.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. I just, like, I read something interesting about, like, how the last, like, decade or so of, like, Final Fantasy has just been them listening and reacting to feedback and like altering course on a lot of things, and ultimately like things are taking a longer time because of that. So like Final Fantasy, for whatever reason, Final Fantasy 12 came out, more open world style game, like, you know, still zones and stuff, but like no Final Fantasy had really taken it to that level before.
Yep. And
then the reaction to that, for whatever reason, was to make Final Fantasy 13, which was more linear, but like moment to moment, way more story, like moment to moment story driven and stuff. Then that got like backlash as well. So like, okay, what do? We go even further with the open world stuff into like Final Fantasy 15. And as you said, it's been a little bit like divisive. So like this back and forth, like I'm wondering if that's like they're scared with Final Fantasy 7. Like they have a template for Final 7, the original version, but at the same time, it's like they aren't going to make. They said they're not making a one-to-one creation. We want to. That would be the point. That'd be pointless to make a remake if it was like that. We're gonna make some changes. We're gonna change some things up, and I wonder if they're like they're so scared about it has to be done like right. We only get one chance with this.
Our reputation rides on
that.
This.
Like it's not necessarily worrying about like tarnishing any legacy or anything, because the original version will always still exists. Is that like they think they might feel the weight of this game is gonna be judged by like possibly unfairly high expectations that might be like just impossible to meet, but they still like deep down like we want to try our best, and that's just like why it's taking so long. It's like they see some new technology, they see some feedback from some game, like I don't care if it like add more months to this development, we need to address this because we were gonna do this, but several games tried this feature and it did not go over well, so we need to redo this part of this game right now.
But that level of anxiety is what has me so frustrated, because like I remember the argument being thrown around during the Final Fantasy 13 days of, listen, they're trying to accomplish something that other people aren't doing. They're trying to reach a level that others can't hit. And it's like, okay. And also, HD games, to make it at this level costs so much time and so many resources, and it's something we're figuring out. It's like, okay, all right, fine, I'll buy that. But now it's like, you look at things all the time, it feels like, happening all the time. You look at Horizon Zero Dawn, you look at The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you look at God of War, and the reason why I'm bringing these games up is, regardless of how you feel about those games, this isn't whether or not you like them, it is... those games feel like they had a very specific goal in mind. When I play all 3 of those games, I walk away and I'm like, I could tell what they wanted to accomplish, and everything that they're doing is in service of that goal. They feel like really driven, focused games, and the reason they're able to come out and in some instances look so impressive and take on this huge scale is because I feel this focus to them. And sometimes it feels like with Square Enix, and especially with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, is it's like, do you just want to be big? Do you just want to blow people away? Like, is that something that's really going to resonate with people? Like, is this something that you want? I'm not getting it. Like, what are we really trying to accomplish here?
And how much confidence does it give you with everything you just said about like wanting like a focus, a purpose, like for this game, because you came out of so many other games that had that and you felt it when the supposed director was found out they were named director the day of the announcement. It's like,
wait, didn't you debunk that? We had to do a correction on that.
What?
He found out at an interior meeting. Like
Oh,
there was an interior,
but like, sorry.
internal exterior.
You found out
There was
like that, but
internal
like,
trailer.
you found out that way.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, were you not like involved in the pre-planning at all? Like, you don't surprise somebody like that and be like, hey, you're gonna be doing this. It's like, it didn't feel like it was Nomura like enthusiastic, it felt like he should have been the one spearheading this, but like,
right, I get what
he's
you mean.
also busy with other stuff. Like, that's why I keep questioning like the timing of this. Like, it's so confusing. Is that Nomura was already busy at the then time. We found internally that like he would be taken off of what would become 15. He's also busy with Kingdom Hearts 3, and like I guess Toriyama and Kitase, who are worked on the original Final Fantasy VII, the basically lead forces behind Final Fantasy 13 and other Final Fantasies, are also attached to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. And if they're having this much trouble, and it's like some of the core people were involved here, like, it just makes me really skeptical. Like, I'm sorry, like, I've been nothing. The only good thing besides the reveal trailer that I've seen or heard about this game is that they don't want to make it a one-to-one creation. They want to take risk. And I'm like, all right, as long as you're true about that, I at least have some hope and excitement for this. But the radio silence, like the these postings and stuff, I've seen the same song and dance too many times before from this company and this series. That's like, I'm sorry, you have not like, you haven't done enough to make me think otherwise yet. You can prove me wrong when the game comes out, but like, I feel completely justified to be this skeptical about the state of this game right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
So here's one thing I would say in defense of Square Enix is, and them saying like, hey, we're pushing out games faster than ever, is, 2 years ago they finally published Final Fantasy 15. A year later they published Nier Automata. This year they're publishing Kingdom Hearts and Tomb Raider. And so I feel like unless there's a few down years, the public perception won't be so much as like, man, they really need to put games out, because they are.
Right.
It's just that particular game is taking a really long time.
And
Kingdom Hearts 3 is taking a long time.
Yeah, I was gonna say Kingdom Hearts 3 is.
But like once it's out, we won't be sour about it anymore. Once we're finally playing that game.
This is actually what I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm pretty sure you can go back to previous GT conversations, GT times even, where talk of Kingdom Hearts 3, and there was a feeling of surprise where it's like, now they're saying it's in development?
Yeah.
Now we're
getting
getting a trailer? Right.
Yeah.
There were dark times there with Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
I do think the last couple of years, with recent showings, with recent trailers, all of that skepticism has just melted away. And what you're saying, and I want to ask this, is you're like, when Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out, everyone's going to be happy. You're just saying, like, that's a fact. Like, you are sitting here and you're like, that is going to be a good video game and everyone's going to like it.
I'm saying that not everybody liked The Last Guardian, but it's not going to be like, where is it, Sony? We're waiting. Like, that'll be gone, you know? Like, that anger will be gone. Many people will dislike Kingdom Hearts 3. I can guarantee it. Sure. It's not going to be a universally liked game like God of War.
Do you think... I guess my question to you is, do you think it will be beyond the normal, like, I just don't like Kingdom Hearts, or, like, do you think the people that are really foaming at the mouth for that game will be pleased?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. I think hardcore Kingdom Hearts game, because the impression I do get from Square Enix is that they do care about these games. The impression I get from that little blurb you read out loud, is that they maybe could have put out a Final Fantasy VII by now, but they didn't like how it was. And Damiani says maybe because it didn't have modern features. But, you know, like, I do think that they want it to be as impressive as it can be. They want Kingdom Hearts to be as impressive as it can be. And so when it finally does come out, I believe that it will be a fully featured, impressive video game. A lot of the complaints you had earlier about it being an incomplete game where I needed all these things, I think that'll happen with Kingdom Hearts 3. There's going to be DLC. We can count on that now. There's going to be ways that they make more money out of in addition to our $60 from that video game.
Sure.
But yeah, I have faith that it will be an excellent video game by the time it actually releases.
So my question to you is, I think it's different when we look at it in the context of Kingdom Hearts versus the context of Final Fantasy VII, because we're taking and making a new thing based on an old beloved thing that has been beloved for years. But all of this talk, all of this worry, all of this, you know, skepticism in the media and amongst fans, if that's what is achieved, does any of this matter? Is what I'm saying. So,
this period right now.
This period right now. Like, is this period overblown?
No, I think that I think that a good Kingdom Hearts 3 will alleviate Final Fantasy VII Remake tensions.
You think so?
I do. I think if Kingdom Hearts 3 is really good this fall, people will have better feelings about Final Fantasy VII Remake.
But in this moment...
What reason do we have to believe, right?
Well, no, I'm saying in this moment, is it worth it to be concerned? Is it worth the energy? Is it worth the minutes on a podcast? Or is that just... Are we getting too far ahead of ourselves?
No, I mean the topic that is like the doesn't it suck that this game's taking so long, right?
I think the topic is not only is it that it's taking so long, but you said the word, you said dishonesty.
Yeah.
That feeling that something is not quite right.
Right.
That's really what it is for me.
Yeah. Right. Like I can't debate. I think Final Fantasy VII Remake, when it comes out, will be very good. But it's just taking a long time.
Okay.
And that is frustrating. I'm glad that they stopped teasing it. I'm glad that they pumped the brakes on that. If Final Fantasy VII Remake was an every year kind of thing, that'd be very frustrating.
Sure. So you're saying because they're not coming out and teasing it at every event, that maybe they're learning, that maybe this is...
Yeah, like this was a job listing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there is some like PR-ish language in there, but they didn't want people to write news articles about that job listing. You know, and so yeah, I think that they've been good since then. They know that they should be quiet about it.
Just to kind of bounce off the other side of that argument, like, sure, let's assume that that's true. Let's assume that they don't want people to, but people are going to. I mean, shouldn't you have the ability to know what you're putting out there and what people can do with it?
Yeah. Shoot, what's the mech game?
Front Mission?
No, it was announced recently. It's a Square Enix game they're publishing.
Is it Left Alive?
Left Alive. Yeah, well done, Ben. Left Alive. It's exactly that kind of thing. Like, hey, you announced that. When's that? And you're like, I don't know. Actually, I bet Left Alive will be next year and 7 Remake after that. I bet we'll get Left Alive next year.
Do you think we'll get Left Alive in a meaningful capacity at E3?
Yeah.
I think so too.
I totally forgot about Left Alive until this conversation, but yeah, I bet that'll be a 2019 game and we'll see about a lot of it this year.
Damiani, do you think, how confident do you feel in the quality of what Square Enix is putting out, primarily Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy VII Remake?
I mean, Kingdom Hearts 3, they've shown off a lot up to date. And the last few trailers with gameplay have looked pretty good to me.
They have.
I think they have their act together with Kingdom Hearts 3. I think it will be, at least for people who are interested in Kingdom Hearts 3, my gut instinct is that it will actually be good and well received. We already got a sample of how it's going to play basic mechanics in the Fragmentary Passage demo included with 2.8, Kingdom Hearts 2.8. And it was enough, at least to me, it was enough to convince me that zones, like environments for each of the Disney worlds will probably be seamless. No more little tiny areas that you have to load in and out of. It felt more fluid, the combat. It definitely felt like they made platforming a little bit more user-friendly. It used to be one of the more annoying aspects of it. So basically everything they've put out, both samples in playable form and in trailer capacity, have all been, to me, have looked very positive. So I feel really good about Kingdom Hearts 3 and what it'll probably end up being. So I'm confident about that. I'm not. I do agree with Kyle a bit. Like if Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out this year and is mostly well received, or very well received, it will take off some of the pressure on Square Enix regarding Final Fantasy VII Remake. A lot of the doubts will be kind of like, it will basically pacify some people for a little bit of time. It'll buy them some more time to work on Final Fantasy VII Remake. I guess the difference is like remakes are kind of a tricky thing. You either just keep it the same and make it look better, like Ocarina of Time 3D or Shadow of the Colossus, where you're not radically changing anything. Even it's visual fidelity. Like Shadow of the Colossus was visual fidelity. Yes, it looks much, like quality wise it's better, but like it isn't like really reimagining any part of the game, which they're claiming to do with Final Fantasy VII like remake. And what we've seen so far of the gameplay trailer that they put out, of the announcement trailer, this seems like it's gonna be a pretty hefty reimagining of the game. So like the premise behind it makes me a little bit more concerned. Like even if they nail Kingdom Hearts 3, I'm still gonna be a little bit skeptical about 7 Remake. Like a lot of my perception of how that game will probably do, like gut instinct wise, will depend on the next time they publicly show it. I think the next time it's publicly shown will be almost as important as like the announcement. Like they nailed the announcement. Like they did a really good job with this. The gameplay trailer was kind of like just like the cherry on top. It's like, hey, look, it does exist. Here's like some like whatever BS footage, or maybe it is real footage. Who knows? But it's like the next time it's shown, to me, is critical for them. And I will come form a better guess as to how well the game will be based on that. And I think they do need to get it right. Like, so they need to take some time with that.
The thing that we're not talking about, in a sort of similar fashion happened with Versus 13, is we have spent some time getting into the conversations of PlayStation 5 and when that is potentially coming.
Yeah.
And if you take all of this information that, hey, we're still hiring core members, this is what we want to do, we're increasing the scope of it, we want to go beyond Final Fantasy VII, we're going to be waiting a long time. We'll be waiting probably until after new consoles are out.
Right.
And
because I'm a staunch 2019er.
Sure. Be as staunch as you want.
Yeah.
My thing is, if we're talking about Square Enix here and they want it to be the best and they want to adapt to these new platforms, like that's going to slow things down even more, right? And so is that okay? Does that make the announcement even more frustrating? Does it make this communication even more frustrating if we're once again going to have to wait in order for this thing to be done?
It's so funny. I think of Death Stranding.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we're making a PS4 game. And everyone's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. That's a PS5 game. Right. And so I kind of like, you just kind of forgive them a little bit. They have to call it a PS4 game. That happened like early in the PS4's life, though. When Final Fantasy VII Remake was announced for PS4, it made the PS4 stronger.
Right.
Some announcements are, just they're just made to strengthen the platform, which can be frustrating, but it's the biz. I think it's very safe to assume that anything beyond Kingdom Hearts 3 and Left Behind is going to be PS5.
Right.
Maybe. I mean, people think it's 2020, and that might be the case, but I really think it's 2019, or at least close to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that, yeah, man, I don't think it's a detractor to me. I guess as somebody who always buys a console when it comes out, I think that could be very frustrating to somebody who thought they were going to get the best version of that game on a PS4 Pro.
Yeah, the comparison to Death Stranding is interesting because with Death Stranding, I don't have the same frustrations or hesitancy because I have no idea what Death Stranding is.
Yeah.
And it's not... I feel like it's not really trying to play off anything. It's doing some crazy new Kojima thing, and I'll be excited for it when it comes. But with Final Fantasy VII, waiting for it and then maybe having the platform bump increase that even further, it's like, well, maybe I'm just waiting around for them to do a worse version of something I love. And not only that, but to get part one of a worse version of something I love.
It's going to be worth it. We're going to love that game. Have hope. Kratos freed the hope for a reason, Ben.
Yeah, I understand. But it's like, I already love Final Fantasy VII. I think I would be more patient and forgiving if it was, we're going to make new characters for you to fall in love with. Because the thing is, it's not like this is the first time they've revisited the well with Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
They keep going back. They keep doing new things. They keep...
Yeah.
The geostigma, like, I've done it, man.
You know what they haven't done? Summoning a fat chocobo again. How good will that feel? That's going to feel so good.
To attack?
Yeah. It's a summon in the game. It's so
It feels
good.
so good.
It won't
Yes.
feel good when that fat chocobo is $5 on the PlayStation Store.
I'll pay it.
That was
I'll pay
cheap.
it.
That was cheap, and
I'll
that's
pay
not
it.
going to happen.
I'll pay it.
I mean,
That's
I don't know. Final Fantasy 15's roadmap and stuff, I think you're going to see, no matter what, you're going to see Final Fantasy VII Remake follow similar types of kind of like beats with new content releases and stuff. I have a feeling that thing's going to be planned to be like game 1 released, DLC updates throughout until the release of second game.
Like, here's what Yuffie's up
It's just
to.
going to be a constant trickle of stuff thanks to their like 15 roadmap that they've come out with and seen how it's paid off. So I just resolved myself that that's going to happen and to expect that. You bringing up PS5 is interesting because regardless of what's going on with game 1, just with timetables, I think it's at least 3 games is what it sounded like it was going to be. I'm not sure if that's 100% confirmed.
At least 3, right.
The 2 and 3 are definitely coming out on other consoles like PS5 and beyond.
Yeah, exactly.
At some point, this is becoming a PS5 next Xbox whatever next gen series. And which means that part 1 at some point probably will be re-released if it doesn't come out on PS5. It will definitely be like re-released on there, like the 4K remaster or some crap like that.
Yeah.
So like it is that, but the point I'm trying to make is they have to start considering the technological like stuff they have to like program, like development wise, those costs and those new technologies. They can start factoring that into their development. That could also be like this job posting could be opening that like kind of like the can of worms right there. It's like maybe we need to start thinking about PS5 and don't have enough resources to make it work yet. So hey, we need to hire more people like immediately because we need to get like this thing going because holy crap.
But even you saying that is upsetting to me because
like I'm smiling, but that's ridiculous. It's like, oh my, like I was like, why? Like why does this keep happening?
This whole thing reeks of them not really sure of what they're doing, and with something like Final Fantasy VII, of something that this wasn't just some surprise announcement out of nowhere where it's like I can't believe they're doing this. This has been wanted and requested and yelled about for years, and they know how much Final Fantasy VII means to people, and so to come out like this and just have it feel so messy.
Like your
It
point
just
about
feels
like
a little disrespectful.
Your thing about focus and everything. Like think about how they course corrected with 15, like those developer updates. It's like those active time reports. They're doing nothing like that. Like this radio silence also kind of sucks too. Like I mean, more than this, honestly, it's just like it is instilling a sense of like what they just don't. It's not, they just don't know what they're doing. Like, do they know what they're doing? Like, and how can you do that with something like this? Like, this is the one you needed to get right. Like, yeah, Kingdom Hearts 3 is huge, but like 7 Remake is like the apex there. You can't get higher than that. Like, you can't screw this up. Like, you got to get this right. Come on.
That's what I have faith that that's exactly what they're thinking. That they have
so
to get
you
this
think
right.
once they re-unveil it again or
It's gonna
reintroduce it,
gonna
they're
blow
going to
your
have
mind.
this plan in place. Like, here's a new trailer. Here's like, we're going to have updates and stuff.
I think they are thinking that. I think they are thinking we
But-
have to get this right. It's just the impression that I'm getting with the news that is trickling out is that why is that being decided now? Why is that mentality being like it was just too soon?
It should have been for there from the beginning. They should have said we're going to do this in-house from the beginning.
They just weren't
Yes.
prepared. They weren't prepared.
That's what I'm trying to say.
They announced it too soon. Like, let's be honest. They announced it too soon, and they weren't prepared for it.
Yeah.
And now they're dealing with the ramifications of that.
Right.
And, like, it could still end up right, but, like, it's just another thing another oversight to, like, and you just add it to their long list of oversights they've had in, like, the past 10 years.
Yep.
We're ready to go ahead.
I wanted to make one clarification is that I do believe Death Stranding will come out on PlayStation 4.
Okay.
Like when I said, no, you're not. It's not a PS4 game. It'll come out on PS4.
Pro.
Well, are you saying
There's no such thing as pro only.
Are you
I don't
saying
think
it will
that'll
come
ever
out
happen.
before PS5 or it will come out on PlayStation 4 and
PS5?
PlayStation?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
I agree.
But like, I think they'll keep that promise. I think that game.
I don't know, man. Kyle. I
multiply.
think there'll be a period of time in the window after PS5 that there'll be a PS4 Pro only game.
I'm not
like
convinced-
PS4 Pro and PS5.
It goes on longer than you think. I was just reminded that Rise of the Tomb Raider came out on Xbox 360.
Yeah, I'm just not convinced that there's anything the PS4 Pro can run that the PS4 can't. You know, it can run just things worse, but I don't think there'll ever be a PS4 game that won't be playable on PS4, but will be playable on Pro.
Xbox One X.
I still don't think that'll happen.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not convinced there's anything on Xbox One X that won't be playable on an Xbox One. They're not that huge of leaps.
Okay.
I really think,
I think
and
some
that's
of
what
the-
they've promised
I think some of
all
these
this
games.
time.
I mean, I guess you're right, but I also think some of these games, like when it comes to visual fidelity, they might look so bad on like PS4, OG PS4, compared to like PS5 that like the PS4 Pro version is already pushing in terms of like what people would take like on a
Hyrule
visual
Warriors
hit.
on the 3DS.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, this is bad.
Yeah,
This
it's
actually, you put out a bad game, and you're right. And like on a new 3DS, it like works. I get what
Yeah.
you're saying. Yeah.
I wonder, and it's just because it's gonna be the first time we're hitting a new generation where we have everyone has like Microsoft and Sony have iterative versions of their consoles
Right.
with more power. It's like,
Yep.
how's this transition gonna work? It's a little interesting. Yeah.
I believe Sony will stick to their promise, and I think Xbox One X will not do exclusive games to it.
Okay.
I don't think they will. I agree. Are we ready to move on to some emails?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the discussion.
Oh, one other clarification I wanted to make, because when I think of like one of my favorite stories of Star Wars, it's absolutely, hey, your dead dad left this behind.
Yeah.
What's so important about Star Wars is that Luke Skywalker doesn't want to do this stuff. He wants to like hang out and be a pilot on Tatooine.
Well,
Wait, what?
also, I mean, he directly has to deal with that past and that figure.
Yeah. He doesn't want to do it until he goes home and is like, oh, the stormtroopers burned my house. Now I have to go on this adventure. You know, it's a whole hero's journey thing. Like, you got to deny your journey
Okay.
Sure.
at first. You got to say no. You got to say no once.
Gotcha.
I get you.
That's what makes a person a hero.
I think you explained it plenty fine. First one comes in from Calvin, and I really like the subject of this. Why am I so bad now? Hello,
I'm ready
Ben.
to answer this.
Ben and other allies. I have a simple question. I played Bioshock for the first time when I was 13. I'm 23 now. I remember going through the game in 2 days with little to no trouble. I replayed the game recently, and I sucked at it hard. And many of my other friends played through in their entirety all of the Crash Bandicoot games when we were 4 to 6. Personally, I can't beat Crash 1, 2, and 3 when I was 6, but now they are considered difficult games. I even struggled playing through the last half of the original Crash 2 last year. I'm not the only one that feels this way. Why was I and maybe others better at games when we were kids, but struggle now with some of them? Side question, how was I and all of us able to figure out RPGs as a kid? Because I do not remember. Thanks for reading this. All the love in the world.
So I got a plain opinion about this, and
Yeah.
it's conditioning. I think that the games you've played since BioShock have conditioned you to play a certain way.
Yeah.
And then when you have to hop back into that system with all its stupid, I hate
Yeah.
BioShock. It's harder. It becomes harder. But at the time, everything was like new and interesting. And it's like, oh, these are cool mechanics. And so yeah, I think it's conditioning. You're conditioned out of playing games like Crash Bandicoot.
Yes.
Oh yeah, exactly what I was gonna say. Just like I would add on to that, like unless you are playing that, like in this case BioShock, unless you play it kind of like every so often, like a complete playthrough, and you just keep yourself familiar with it, despite playing games that have since like advanced the mechanics and we've moved to a different point in that genre, and you like trying to go back cold turkey to an old one. It's like, oh, I remember this being better. It's like, oh man, why doesn't it do this? Why can't I do this? Like you start complaining and stuff. It's like, well, yeah, you've seen the improvements and stuff like that, or you just used improvements, or you're just used to everything does a different style, and just, as you said, your condition. But I think there's a way to, if you play it more often, more frequently than the average person, that's not as apparent.
Yeah.
I feel like you can still go back, you can still enjoy it, and still that frame rate. So it's a combination of both of those. I'm gonna guess this person is like not gone back and tried to play BioShock in between those two periods at all. And,
yeah. I largely agree with that, and I think that is the bulk of the answer. I have to wonder if there's another factor at play, and that factor is ignorance. And I just say this from personal experience, and I think it's true for many people. When I was a kid, I couldn't go on Twitch and watch everyone be good at every video game ever made. I wasn't aware that you could speedrun everything in negative time. You know, it's just, you're exposed to so much, and I wonder if that plays into like personal doubt or overthinking things a little bit too much. Like when I was a kid, I just played a game and you did as well as you did, and if you died and you got a game over, you did it again. Like you weren't aware of how good things could be, and so you didn't really think that you sucked.
Sure. Kids are also adaptive. They're just so good at learning. They're so good at changing to whatever environment they're in, and so yeah, they're just.
Do you also
good
think
at
it's
picking up
because
video
like
games.
Kids just doubt themselves less? Like they don't pick it up and they don't think maybe I'll be bad at this. They're just like, no, I'm just gonna do the thing.
I think kids don't pick it up and say, oh, this is a waste of time.
Right.
I think some kids do. They're all different now. The internet changed our kids.
Kids aren't kids anymore?
No. They're all adults.
Not ready to accept this.
The second they can like Google a thing, they become an adult.
Kyle, I have this fear that one day when I'm like playing video games with my kids, I'm like, guys, I've been waiting to do this forever, and I bust out Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, count on it.
And they go, Dad, this sucks.
Yeah, count on that.
Like I'm not gonna be able to handle it, man.
Yep.
I think everyone will go through that at some point in their life.
No, like it. I'm kidding.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's more funny. I do. One of your other variables, if you're wondering other stuff.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised at how often enough time has gone by you don't remember things exactly correctly. As the way they actually happen.
Right, that's
so
true.
In your mind, you might like, not to be like no disrespect to anyone, but you might have remembered, oh, I beat that game so easily when I was young and stuff. But if someone had like a camera or recorded your footage, you'd be like, oh look, you died like 8 times in this game.
Right.
You just kind of like
It took you a whole summer to beat that game.
Your memory,
actually,
like the research has shown that like your memory starts to get a little bit selective and remembers things in a certain way. Sometimes the best versions or worst versions of stuff, and it basically exaggerates your memories. The older they are, the more exaggerated they get.
Yep.
And you can't always trust them. So. Yeah.
It's a fair point, actually.
We got some good emails this week. The next one comes in from Michael. He says, muscular palicos or Taco Bell takeout. Hi, esteemed allies. I love the idea of going to a cat cafe and having a muscular cat delicately garnishing and serving my food like in Monster Hunter World. Mm-hmm. Yes. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? This leads me to my question. What food qualities from video games do you wish were a reality? It can even be something outside of video games. For example, I recently had a dream where I met some of the allies and then ordered delivery from Taco Bell, which sounded like a cool idea.
Taco Bell does not do delivery, but like maybe you could do like Uber Eats. I don't know.
He's just saying it's a good
idea. It was a dream.
Kyle.
It was like it's a dream.
Okay.
It was just a dream.
All right.
Yeah.
It was dreaming.
Bad dream.
Dream big.
Bad dream.
Hey.
What's bad about that dream?
Hey. One man's Taco Bell delivery.
Yeah.
Is another man's what?
Taco Bell. Wait.
How's that phrase going to end?
Wait a minute.
I want what you were gonna say is like.
I love Taco
dream.
Bell and would love it to be delivered to me. I know you love Taco Bell.
It's like I just can't see it working because Taco Bell is so cheap. They would really have to have like a minimum order for Taco Bell delivery to really work.
Listen, all I care about is the end result, man. That I have the Taco Bell. All right. Anyway, back to the question. What food qualities from video games or outside of video games do you wish were a reality?
I don't know. I like that food just appears in video games.
Yeah.
You just don't have to wait for it. Just consume it and you're good. You have Another thing that's really hard to appreciate about food, and I'm realizing this, is that like sometimes I'll just get weak at night and it's like, oh, I haven't eaten, is that like you see the improvement that food gives you in video games. It's numerical, it's visually represented. When you eat food in real life, you don't really realize what qualities are improving immediately.
Yeah.
Or you know, in any mathematical way. And so it's harder to appreciate food in real life than it is in video games.
The simplified physics behind a lot of it, as in like you just need like 4 ingredients to create this like really elaborate dish, and so it's like go out in your backyard with like just a generic axe and cut like your tree. Oh look, I got some leaves. Oh, those could be used as like, you know, and get some apples, and then like, you know, oh, they're just like go into like, you know, on like just there's a random animal out there, just kill it. Oh, you got meat now. Like don't have to like do any of the gory stuff. It just like becomes the piece of meat. And then you just throw it in a thing, and if you just literally turn the thing for like 3 minutes, this great gourmet meal is here that's absolutely fantastic is for you. Like you don't need to go to the grocery store and be like, I gotta judge this this vegetable, see which one's the right one. I gotta, you know, dice it up into little pieces, and then, you know, oh, I gotta let things sit out. Like everything's just like sped up and streamlined. Like I like that about video game logic with food a lot of the times.
Yeah, definitely along those lines for me is when we were at Game Shows in an office, I would kind of look forward to lunch breaks for multiple reasons. Like A, you just get out of the office, and B, like I get to talk to you guys, and, you know, maybe I'm excited about some game or movie, or Hubert's excited that we get to share that experience together, and that was very nice. But now, working primarily from home, there are a lot of times where I'm in the middle of something, and then I get hungry, and I'm like, I just don't want to deal with this right now.
Yeah.
I very much enjoy the process of eating, but it's just the feeling that you like have to do it, and it's like, okay, I have to stop what I'm doing, I gotta go get in the fridge and make something. It's just like, no, just let me keep working. I would appreciate that from video games, where I could just pop it in my mouth and be done, and it restores me to full health.
I'm gonna real quick and go one step further.
Yeah,
I wish they could just be like, you can go long periods of time without eating.
Right.
Like, a lot of video games just don't even have eating in them.
God of War. I don't have to eat in God of War.
Yeah, Kratos doesn't ever eat. They revealed that they originally had like a scene where he did eat apparently, but they cut it from the game. Yeah, it was kind of funny.
Wait,
like,
what do you mean they revealed
there was
that?
like internal pitch videos, like the Greenlight videos. I think either IGN or GameSpot had the exclusive on this, and I was watching it. Like the scene with Atreus and Kratos roasting some meat, and then Kratos eats it.
Wow.
And it's not in the final version of the game.
Yeah, mechanically, I think that would really suck.
And they said, like, oh, it would have been the first time ever in a game, in any of the games you saw Kratos eat. But, yeah, but along with, like, the new God of War, but lots of other games, characters just don't ever have to eat any food. Yeah. It's just like, that'd be nice. You know, you're working long periods of time. It's like, I don't feel hungry. Don't have to eat.
No
nice.
Trips to the bathroom.
It's nice and jolly. Yep.
I mean, the negative consequences is sometimes I don't eat, which is, I don't think a good idea.
Oh, yeah. Real life, not good idea.
Not a good idea.
Last email comes in from James. Hello, Ben and panel. I hope you're still doing well with keeping those demons at bay. Anyway, I've been thinking more and more lately about...
We effed up. We didn't keep them at bay. They got me.
No, we kept them at bay. That Kamehameha, like...
It kept them at bay, but they, like, I still said Shrek 4. And I said it again. Sorry, continue your email. Because I was wondering, because honestly, when you first said, like, keep the demons at bay, like, it sounds like poetry, like, we have our inner demons.
We have our inner demons,
and it's like, hey, we made it. We made it to the podcast today. At least we kept our demons at bay for another day.
Right.
But I realized we're talking about frame trap demons. So, okay, please continue.
So not at bay.
Yeah.
Frame trap demons not at bay.
Yep.
Personal demons at bay.
Yes.
Anyway, I've been thinking more and more lately about the times I've had my opinion of a game change considerably in a short time frame after finishing it. Yes, man. There have been times I've been engrossed in a game only to ultimately feel unsatisfied upon completion, leaving me to look back and fixate on flaws I was previously ignoring. BioShock Infinite is an example of this. On the flip side, I've gotten through games that greatly frustrated me on a regular basis, but once those frustrations became a thing of the past, I started finding things I don't feel like I was giving the game enough credit for, or even realizing my own mistakes in playing that contributed to some of those frustrations. Alpha Protocol is an example of this. Do you guys have similar experiences, and if so, how often and to what extent? Do you find it hard to reconcile the idea of your positive or negative experiences playing a game contradicting your final opinion of it? Do you think it is fair to be dismissive of your time with the game if you feel quite differently with the benefit of hindsight?
So I'm thinking of like games where my opinion changed right at the ending, but to think of one that like the opinion changed a week later is a little harder. I got to dig deeper. But yeah, I think just to talk on a general sense, the last part of just like thinking like, was I stupid? Was I stupid when I was enjoying that? Or was I stupid when I was not enjoying it? That was actually a very good game. And no, you can't discredit your prior self, you know?
Yeah, I also don't think you can discredit your preferences because there have been times where I've really enjoyed something and then it's gotten a backlash and it's like, well, the things that you're complaining about, it's not that they aren't a big deal, but I don't think they're that big of a deal to me. Like, I totally think there are a ton of problems in Final Fantasy 15, but it hit a lot of exactly what I wanted at the same time. And so that's one where my own personal time with it was definitely different, I think, from a lot of other people's. But as far as changing...
Here's what I'll say. I got one, actually. It was when we kind of talked about it on this podcast. It was when I was playing through Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, I realized how much I disliked Moon. Just straight out. And so when the first time through that game, I'm just having a great time. I'm loving the music. I'm loving the Hawaii vibes. I'm loving finding new Pokemon and seeing what they evolve into and taking my team through the whole journey. And then the second time through, when I like really think about this as a video game, this is in its progression, in its characters, in its challenges and its mechanics, and it all seemed so dumb. When like that sheen of newness was off and I looked at it for what it actually is, it was something that I did not like. Truth be told, after I finished Pokemon Crystal, I went and finished Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon again because I just like Pokemon. Right. I just like those things. I started feeling bad about the Pokemon who were in the boxes who would never become champions, and I said, man, I really got to do it for them. But yeah, that's such a dumb game. And so to think of myself playing through Moon and saying like, was I dumb? Was it a mistake for me to enjoy Moon? I can't say it was a mistake. I can just say that I'm smarter now. And you can say you're smarter now. Like I think the example there was BioShock Infinite. Playing through it, the writer said, "Man, I was really loving it the whole time, and then later I didn't realize that was kind of sucky." You're just smarter now, but you weren't dumb before.
Yeah, I have to wonder, like in the case of BioShock Infinite, if it's a longing to believe in the promise of it, you know what I mean? Because I think BioShock Infinite is a game where you want to, what you saw of Columbia and all the things that it was going for, like anytime you want to buy into something, you're going just to ignore so much. Yeah. Because you crave that thing so badly. One for me, and I want to get the panel's opinions on this. So I think this is true for Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword, but I'm going to focus on Wind Waker here. I love Wind Waker. I think Wind Waker is a phenomenal game. There's so much about Wind Waker I like. Every time I revisit Wind Waker and I have to do Ganon's Fortress at the beginning, I hate it. I think it's awful.
That's so funny.
I think it's a bad part of that game. I think it is no fun. I think the mechanics that you have to deal with in that game are ultimately unimportant. I think it's overly slow. I think all of the things that I love about Wind Waker are not present in it. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like that. There are a lot of Zeldas with a lot of slow beginnings. That's why I brought up Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. But I think the one in Wind Waker gets to me the most.
Isn't that after Dragon Roost though?
I like Dragon Roost.
No.
But like, I don't think it's like at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's not at the beginning of the game. I just sort of mean like an early, I would still argue introductory part.
Right, because that's when you see Ganondorf.
Right.
You're talking about the very beginning. It's right after you leave Outset Island. You go there.
You go straight there.
Stealth. It's a stealth part.
It's before Dragon Roost.
Yeah,
it's
because you get tossed out.
And then
you
you
go
come
to
back
Dragon
with your
Roost.
sword and you feel good.
Or you get tossed out. You're on Windfall Island and then you head to Dragon Roost.
Okay, that makes sense.
Is it? Sorry. What is the name of the island that you start on? Because
Outset Island.
Outset Island. Mm-hmm. I said onset. Okay, completely forgot the name of that. Got
it. Wind Waker 2 for me was funny because if you pre-ordered at Best Buy, maybe at other places, you got Ocarina of Time on a GameCube disc, and that was my first time playing through that game. And so, yeah, I pre-ordered it. I played through Ocarina of Time, and I just really love it.
Yes.
And then, so I played through Wind Waker, and it's like, yeah, this is the new one. The graphics incredible. It's a really fun game. Finished it, and I was like shocked at myself. Like it was a thought I shouldn't have when I said like, I think I liked Ocarina of Time more than this. And like at that time, that seemed like you should, Kyle. It's insane, dude. Don't say that. But like that's everybody's opinion. You know, it's just eventually the Wind Waker is still super good, and I would understand if you like it more. But yeah, there was that feeling, Ben, of like I should like Wind Waker. I know I should love this. I know that this should be the thing that I like. But then later, just that like maybe this wasn't the complete game that Ocarina was. And yeah, I've definitely felt that before.
To me, it was. I didn't think the stealth was very good. And the amount of time that I had to spend with the stealth was so frustrating, especially when I felt like it really didn't matter all that much later on.
Yeah, you don't really need to revisit that. Like that mechanic doesn't have like, there's no like learning that so that you need to use it later on in a meaningful capacity. Like, it was just like kind of inconsequential. I mean, narratively, it made sense for that point, but like, Zelda's always been more about like teaching you mechanics that you will reuse over and over again, and that you will like they're integral to the progression in the game.
Yeah,
and that was like very
it
was almost as bad as the top spinner, forgetting the move name in Twilight Princess, the one that you ride on that like hooks into the wall.
That thing rules.
Yeah, it was like using that one dungeon. It was like used sparingly anywhere else. It was like pretty much like a one trick thing. I was like, cool, but.
So I would say that it makes sense for the story. It makes you fear Ganon. It makes you fear that castle. It adds mystery to it. But also it's like intentionally frustrating so that when you come back prepared, when you have a bomb and a sword and a bow and arrow, you feel so much more empowered than you would have otherwise if this was your first trip through that castle.
See, everything that you're saying is exactly how I wanted to feel. Because all of that sounds great.
Yeah.
It crossed a line for me, and I think this can happen.
Sure.
And I think it does happen with designers where they're like, all right, this is the feeling that we want to do. How are we going to make that happen so they feel this way? But if you think about the fortress and you have to go and you have to mess with the lights and you have to avoid things this whole time and you have to move very, very slow, it reached a point where it just felt so tedious that I didn't care. And I think when you don't care, you can't fear that thing. You can't get those emotions. The annoyance overrode whatever other thing that they were going for with me there. But, yeah. Might be just me. I'm curious to know if it bothered other people as well. Because I feel like that's not the first time I've expressed
that part specifically drew a lot of complaints. I remember a lot of reviews specifically called out that part the first time the Forsaken Fortress. They felt the stealth was completely out of place and the game didn't need it. And it seemed to be like a lot of people complained that it was a trend at the time that a lot of games were like shoehorning in stealth segments.
A lot of games
and people were getting a little annoyed with the trend. Like, okay, every game doesn't need a stealth segment because it's the new cool thing to do here, everybody.
I don't think I would harp it on it as much if there were other things in the game that made me feel that way, where I'm like, man, maybe Wind Waker just doesn't control it well, but I love fighting things in Wind Waker.
Yeah.
I think the animations, the smoothness of it feels so good. I love sailing. I think that feels phenomenal. Like there are so many things that I enjoy doing in Wind Waker that one felt weirdly off. I don't know.
Your comment about like you were like, I felt bad. Just I played Ocarina of Time, thought it was better than the Wind Waker.
Yeah.
I would argue that I feel like that bonus disc, because it was also the first time we officially got Master Quest. That's like I was so into it.
Yep.
I feel like that bonus disc was a peace offering to the fan base, the segment of the fan base that quote unquote was like upset about the Wind Waker. So it was kind of like the best of both worlds. Like, hey, if you buy the Wind Waker, you also get like Ocarina of Time updated on GameCube and Master Quest. So you're technically getting a new Ocarina of Time and the Wind Waker
and
for the
we're
price
never
of
selling this privately.
And like they released it early. It's like, oh, you can go pick it up early, your pre-order and stuff. So you like calm down, everybody. But it also contributed to the sales of the Wind Waker.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
I remember hearing anecdotal stories of people saying they pre-ordered to get that and then canceled their pre-order afterwards. It's like they didn't care about the Wind Waker. I was like, oh,
but I think
horrible.
it was like a $10 pre-order. I think like
you couldn't get like the full amount.
So
back.
You're in for $10, which is still a good deal for what that is.
Pretty good.
Kyle, you made me realize that I don't think I can answer the question of what do I like more, Wind Waker or Ocarina of Time.
Wow.
I think I need to play them back to back. I think I like Majora's Mask more than both. I think. I don't know.
Nah, dude.
No?
No.
Yes.
No.
Hey, I can like whatever I want.
I'm gonna make you play that back to back to back. I'm gonna make you.
I played Majora's Mask all the way through,
I'm
like
gonna
100%.
make
Not that
you
long
like.
ago.
Oh yeah,
well,
you did.
not 100%, but
It was back at Game Trailers,
I
right?
got all the masks. Yeah, because
yeah.
I did a retro thing on
I
it.
just like hate fighting bosses more than once.
What do you mean? You do that in the Wind Waker?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the boss rush mode. Yeah, I hate that big time. Just the basically like the time reset. And so in one day, you have to go back through each of the 4 dungeons and beat the bosses again. Like that's too much for me. That's too much. I already got this guy.
Wait a second.
Huh.
You beat the boss. You get the permanent items stay with you, Kyle.
Yeah, but I think like there's something you get for beating all 4 at the same day. Oh, I think that's the ending, right?
No,
That's how you get the 4 giants.
You don't need to beat them all on the same day. You beat all 4. You get the full version of the oath. Each time you beat a boss, the first time you beat each boss, you learn a new part of the Oath to Order, the song that calls forth the 4 giants. So you just gotta beat them once. You need to beat a war. You need to rebeat a dungeon to change the environment around it. So like snowfall,
Yes,
you have to
yeah.
beat it to change it to spring
dude,
to
yes.
progress. So you do like it is needed to progress in other fashions, but like
I forgot some of
permanent
that
stuff
stuff's really
sticks
annoying.
though like that.
Yeah.
But like the environment reverts back to its
Yeah.
dungeon beat state. Yes,
I don't. And maybe I'm just misremembering, but I don't remember, Damiani, when I went through that playthrough having to go and beat the same bosses a bunch of times.
I probably because the stuff you did afterwards, like you completed the main story quest arc of that part. That it's not only other stuff. There was optional side stuff that like you would need to like change. So like
in an optimized playthrough, you wouldn't have to play them more than once. But like, because I was being sloppy and not fully exploring, I would have to.
I don't know how true that
those
actually
things
is,
afterward.
Kyle. Like I feel like it's been a while. I haven't replayed it. I feel like after you beat each of the major temples, you don't need anything else from that area to progress on through the main story.
Oh yeah, but I want side stuff. I'm gonna get all that.
Yeah,
all
like
those items.
if you
the fox boy,
you beat
ring his bell and he just turns around.
You beat Woodfall, you get the key item from the dungeon, you get the bow and arrow, you get the song. You do not need to go back. Like, there's nothing post. I think you don't even have to return the Deku Princess back to the king. You can ignore that and just keep going.
The reason why I bring all this up, Kyle,
Yeah.
is because I like Zelda quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the many different takes on Zelda. And it wasn't that long ago that I played Wind Waker HD.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago that I revisited Majora's Mask for the retro and the 3DS re-release. But I didn't play a lot of the Ocarina of Time 3DS re-release.
So you don't know where it fits.
Right, and
Where's
so
Breath
I'm-
of the Wild, by the way?
I really like Breath of the Wild a
So
lot.
it's number 1.
I don't know, Kyle. I don't know. I'm
Number
getting
1, then Majora's Mask.
I'm getting a little freaked out because I don't know if I can commit to a number 1, and for a long time, Ocarina of Time was my number 1.
Got you.
But then I went back and I'm like, actually, I kind of appreciate how uncomfortable Majora's Mask makes me feel.
And then it's like almost equal to Wind Waker.
Right.
I see. All right.
Right. I'm having a lot of self-doubt here. Maybe it is just Ocarina of Time.
It's Breath of the Wild, number 1.
It is Breath of the Wild, number 1.
Breath of the Wild, number
It
1.
is.
Skyward Sword, number 2. Then I think Ocarina of Time. Then Wind Waker.
Man,
Kyle
I feel like I'm
Then
always
in
in
Link
your
Between
camp.
Worlds.
I'm always in your camp
Oh,
with
Link's
Skyward
Awakening!
Sword.
I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Link's Awakening is number 2.
Let's just focus on 3D.
Yeah,
for right
okay,
now.
got it.
Let's
Right.
make it a little easy. I'm always in your camp with Skyward Sword, but
Yeah.
when you do Skyward Sword number 2, I'm just like, no. Man.
Yeah, number 2, baby. Upgrading
Oh,
that
man.
shield. Upgrading your stuff.
I know.
Breath of the Wild, and then what? I don't know. Damiani knows.
Yeah, Damiani has
Hey,
it.
you're making up your own list.
He has
here.
the list. He has Miyamoto's folder.
Yes.
He knows the actual ranking of
The
Nintendo's
official
Yeah.
version. No, I was gonna say another Zelda thing, but to answer the question here. Well, I guess I haven't said many. I haven't given an example yet.
Yeah,
so
no, that's
I feel
fair.
bad.
We've abused this question.
Oh no. I didn't think it was the greatest game at the time. I thought it was like I enjoyed it more in the first playthrough, and then when I went back to revisit it later, Phantom Hourglass, the Temple of the Ocean King. I remember so many people complaining about that part of the game.
Yeah,
It
and I was,
sucks.
like originally I was like, "Whoa, why do we ever complain about it? I actually like this." You know, like this is not
What?
so like this is like are people just like maybe like am I doing something different or am I missing something here? It's like time, like I guess maybe the time restriction is a little annoying for some people, but like the concept of it, I like. There's nothing wrong with it, and execution wise, I was like enjoying it. When I went back to replay it, whenever I did the full playthrough in the last 2 years, I was like, "F this dungeon." I was like, no, what was I thinking?
It was the E3 glow. They invited you onto the stage to play this game. Of course you're going to love it.
I beat it.
The E3 glow is such a good phrase.
No, I played through it before that point, though. So, so
Nintendo gave you exclusive access to this game. Of course you're going to love it.
I played it in Japanese first. I made the Japanese version, and you don't need to know Japanese to understand the Temple of the Ocean King. It's a timer with puzzles. You don't need to know the story for that.
All right.
Like, I actually liked it. I was like,
version.
it's not the great, it's not excellence, but I was like, I think this is pretty good. I'm a dissenting opinion here. And then replaying it in the last 2 years, like, hell no. I mean, I still don't disagree with the concept. Like, I just think the execution's really bad now. I'm like, if you're gonna do it, you need to really rework that again. But as is, no.
That's why Spirit Tracks is so
good. Not good. Yeah, Phantom Hourglass, pretty weak.
They learned from their mistakes, and then Spirit Tracks is
Spirit Glass. That should be a new one.
Spirit Glass.
I think now that we're in the Zelda ranking, it's probably time to wrap this show up. Thank you to everybody who listened, watched, however you engage with us. We appreciate it. We really do. It means a lot that you will sit here and listen to us. Hopefully the Zelda talk at the end didn't drive you too crazy. If you want to find out more of us, go to patreon.com/easyallies. Again, just as a fresh reminder, starting for the next episode, if you are a $5 and up Patreon, you'll be able to get that early, 2 days early, on a Saturday, $5 tier. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.